Chapter 229. Knocked out. The manager saw that Pinliang didn't want people to stick their noses in his business, and quickly moved to the side to make way for him. Pinliang was depressed. His image as young Master Zhong was ruined today. He was the young master of Liangbai Group. But he got beaten up like this in his own hotel. How would he be able to show his face in public if this got out? But, thinking about how Lin Yi would be sent to heaven by Heibao Bro soon, Pinliang held it in. He didn't pretend to be a follower this time, and got into his car, not opening the door for Lin Yi anymore. Lin Yi didn't mind, either, and got in the front passenger seat. Now that he'd made things clear with Lin Yi, Pinliang didn't care if Heibao got what he wanted or not. Even if he didn't, it didn't matter if Lin Yi stopped Zhou. It was a bit of a shame that he couldn't let Lin Yi die in pain, but there was nothing he could do about it now. Busy. Pinliang's phone vibrated. Pinliang was about to take it out for a look when he remembered that Lin Yi was beside him. He quickly pulled his hand back. Heibao texted? Let me see. Lin Yi said, glancing at Pinliang. Alright. Pinliang handed the phone to Lin Yi, depressed. He finally understood what it meant to not fight when the odds were against him. Not showing Lin Yi would only get him beaten up. Lin Yi, on the other hand, picked the weak spots that wouldn't kill him. Pinliang was in so much pain that he didn't pass out, and provoking Lin Yi was asking for it. Pinliang didn't dare go overboard now that they were at loggerheads. Lin Yi had already seen through him, and he didn't have anything to threaten Lin Yi with. It's done. There were only a few words on the phone screen, but Lin Yi was sure that it was a message from Black Panther. Drive faster, Lin Yi said as he tossed Pinliang's phone onto the driver's seat. Pinliang wanted to buy some time, but he was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't be happy. He stepped on the gas pedal. It was past rush hour anyway, and there weren't many cars on the road. Zhou? A hoarse voice came from the other side of the phone. I am. May I know if you're one of Master Zhong's men? Zhou had been waiting for Pinliang's men to contact him. Yes, I have arrived at the unfinished building. Where are you? The man asked. I'm nearby, Zhou said. Okay. I'll wait for you in front of the unfinished building. The other party hung up the phone without waiting for Zhou to say anything. Zhou quickly ran to the unfinished building, but froze when he saw who it was. Black Panther Bro. It was Black Panther Bro. What was going on? However, Zhou was only slightly surprised. His expression returned to normal, but his heart was in turmoil. Pinliang was using Black Panther Bro to do things for him. The news of Black Panther Bro's escape was reported on the TV, and Zhou saw it as well. He thought that Black Panther Bro would leave Songjiang after escaping, and wouldn't stay here and wait to be caught. But things didn't turn out as he wished. Black Panther Bro was helping Pinliang catch Tang Yun, and this confused Zhou. But Zhou didn't say anything. This wasn't something he was worried about. He didn't care why Black Panther Bro didn't escape, but whether Tang Yun was caught or not. Black Panther Bro, hello, I'm Zhou. Zhou ran to Black Panther Bro and greeted him respectfully. You know me? Black Panther's eyes flashed with sharpness. I'm young Master Zhong's good friend. Of course I've seen Black Panther Bro before. Zhou heart tightened. Black Panther Bro, what I'm doing today is illegal. You have to help me keep a lookout. Okay. Black Panther heard Zhou words, and his expression softened a little. Zhou let out a long sigh of relief. Black Panther escaped, and he recognized him. What if Black Panther didn't trust him and killed him? But Zhou wasn't stupid. He quickly said that what he was going to do today was illegal as well. So if one of them reported the other wouldn't be able to get away with it. Black Panther Bro, what about Tang Yun? Zhou turned his attention back to Tang Yun when he saw that Black Panther Bro wasn't going to talk about it anymore. In fact, whether Black Panther Bro ran or where he went had nothing to do with Zhou. He didn't want to care about this kind of thing. He fainted. I fed him the medicine. It's in that van. Black Panther pointed to an old white Nissan van not far from him. The van was quite old, at least 20 years old. Do you want me to help you? Thank you, Black Panther Bro. Zhou feet were weak and floating. He didn't dare carry someone up a building without handrails. What if he fell to his death? Heibao threw Tang Yun into an empty room and went downstairs. Fuck, this place doesn't even have electricity. It's so dark I can't even see. Zhou Ruoming fumbled his way up the stairs and sat on a broken staircase. He took out a small medicine bottle from his pocket and poured out a pill, swallowing it. Perhaps one wasn't enough. Zhou Ruoming thought about it and swallowed another one. This was a super strong medicine imported from Japan. It was said that one pill could last for 300 rounds. The male actors in those movies all took this medicine. Zhou Ruoming had an unknown problem, impotence. He used to overdo it when he was young. So now he couldn't do as he wished. He had to rely on some strong medicine to increase his strength. Moreover, the medicine he used was getting stronger and stronger, and the normal ones didn't have much effect anymore. She'd eaten 2 pills this time, so she'd be able to fight for an hour or 2. Ha ha ha. Ruoming started laughing lewdly. Tangin, I'll treat you well later. I'll let you have a taste of my power. After taking the medicine, Zhou Ruoming sat on the staircase, waiting for the medicine to take effect. He wasn't in a rush to check on Tang Yin, since she was unconscious and wouldn't wake up anytime soon. Chapter 230. You cheated, Lin. He didn't need the kid for the time being, so he knocked him out without hesitation. Linny didn't get out of the van, but sat in it and observed the surroundings. Linny, get out. A person got out of the van and stood not too far from Lin Yi's car. It was Heibao. Lin Yi had guessed correctly. Golden class late phase peak? Lin Yi frowned. It was one of Lin Yi's golden fingers to be able to see through a person's true strength. But Lin Yi was still confused as to how Heibao could suddenly go from a person who didn't have much strength to a golden class late phase peak. Lin Yi wanted to wait a bit longer, but Tang Yin was still on top of the building. Lin Yi had no choice but to get out of the car. He had to take care of Heibao as soon as possible, or Tang Yin would be in danger. Lin Yi, you didn't expect this, did you? I escaped from the police? Heibao looked at Lin Yi like he was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, his eyes bloodthirsty. Yeah, I didn't expect this. Lin Yi nodded. But there are some things you wouldn't expect. What do you mean? Heibao paused. I'm actually a golden class early phase master. Lin Yi's aura burst out of his body as he spoke, suppressing his strength to the early phase of the golden class. Heibao paused, but then laughed mockingly. He didn't know how strong Lin Yi was before he became a golden class late phase peak. He only thought that Lin Yi was just a bit stronger than a normal person. But now, he found out that Lin Yi was a golden class master as well. But early phase golden class was nothing in Heibao's eyes. He had the strength of a golden class late phase peak. An early phase golden class was like an adult looking at a newborn baby. What are you laughing at? Lin Yi asked calmly. Haven't you heard of the division of strength in Jianghu? Heaven, Earth, Xian and Huang. Although the Huang class is the weakest, it's enough to dominate the city. The early phase of the Huang class is equivalent to the strength of the special forces. Haha, of course I know. When Black Leopard heard Lin Yi's words, he almost burst out laughing. With your strength, you still want to show off in front of me? Do you think you are very powerful? Since you know, why are you still standing here? Do you want me, an early phase golden class master, to send you to heaven? Lin Yi said casually. Ha. Heibao smiled again very brightly. He really didn't know what arrogance was. An early phase golden class was already this arrogant? Well then let me see how powerful you, an early phase golden class master, are. Lin Yi's attitude today was very unusual, and it was different from Lin Yi's usual style of doing things. If Heibao knew Lin Yi's temperament, he would definitely feel that something was wrong today. Lin Yi, who was always not very flamboyant, became arrogant today. But Heibao didn't know, so he felt that Lin Yi was an egomaniac. Come on. Lin Yi looked at Heibao with disdain. I'll let you see the strength of an early phase golden class. Lin Yi put on a contemptuous posture. Facing Lin Yi's disdainful attitude, Heibao smiled coldly, as if treating Lin Yi as an ignorant person. His body moved slightly, and he suddenly threw a punch at Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled faintly and threw a punch as well, meeting Heibao's fist. Heibao laughed at Lin Yi's stupid. He dared to take a punch from a peak late phase golden class, with just this little bit of strength? A punch from a mid-phase golden class was enough to heavily injure an early phase golden class. let alone a peak late-phase golden class master like him. If he used his full strength, then one punch would be enough to kill an early-phase golden class like Lin Yi. This wasn't what Heibao wanted to see. According to Pinliang's instructions, he wanted to heavily injure Lin Yi first, then bring Lin Yi up, and watch as Zhou Ruoming ravaged Tang Yun, letting him die in pain. So in order to not kill Lin Yi, Heibao only used the strength of a mid-phase golden class. He only needed to heavily injure Lin Yi. Bang! Two fists directly bombarded together, making a muffled sound. You're not an early-phase golden class. Heibao's eyes were filled with disbelief, and before he could say anything, his whole body flew out and landed heavily on the ground. Lin Yi didn't wait for Heibao to hit the ground. He flashed in front of Heibao and stepped on his chest. Crack! Several ribs broke. Lin Yi kicked him a few more times, and Heibao's eyes rolled back and he fainted. Before he fainted, he said in pain, You cheated. Lin Yi curled his lips. My master said that a qualified assassin will do whatever it takes. In Lin Yi's eyes, there were no rules at all. As long as he could achieve his goal, it was enough. Talking about rules with an assassin was bullshit. If Lin Yi had revealed the strength of a late-phase golden class like Heibao from the start, Heibao wouldn't have been so careless, and he wouldn't have only used the strength of a mid-phase golden class when he punched. Although Lin Yi was proficient in assassination and had the art of dragon mastery, it wasn't impossible for him to defeat Heibao. It was just a matter of time. But the problem was that Lin Yi didn't have that much time. Tang Yun was upstairs, and Lin Yi didn't have that much time to waste with Heibao. So Lin Yi decided to use a trick, and the idiot Heibao actually fell for it. This IQ, man, Lin Yi was a little worried. This kind of opportunistic method was a bit despicable, but Lin Yi didn't care about it anymore under the influence of his master and old Lin, two even more shameless guys. Lin Yi looked at Heibao and turned towards Pinliang's Audi. If it weren't for the fact that Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming both knew about this, Lin Yi wouldn't mind letting Heibao transmigrate. But since Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming couldn't kill Heibao right now, Lin Yi couldn't kill Heibao either. Even so, Heibao was already a cripple, and he'd just take it as Lingshan getting off easy. Opening the Audi's door, Lin Yi carried Pinliang to the building and threw him on the ground before jumping up to the second floor. Lin Yi was like a Spider-Man, his hands clasping the cracks of the bricks outside the building, searching for Tang Yun's figure from room to room. Chapter 231. How to solve it. Tang Yun's clothes were still intact, and there was only Tang Yun in the room. Lin Yi didn't know what Zhou Ruoming was up to. It had been a long time, but Lin Yi didn't have the time to care about him. He jumped into the room. Lin Yi picked Tang Yun up from the ground and checked her breathing. It was a little rushed. Lin Yi frowned. Could it be? Lin Yi was just about to check on Tang Yun's condition when he heard Zhou Ruoming's whining voice from the corridor not far from the room. Fuck, I took 2 pills and there's still no reaction. It looks like I have to take another one. I don't know if Tang Yun's side is affected yet. I don't want to be unable to cooperate when the time comes. As expected, the kid fed Tang Yun something. Lin Yi jumped down from the window with Tang Yun in his arms. He glanced at Pinliang on the ground, and an evil smile appeared on his face. Lin Yi put Tang Yun in Heibao's van before grabbing Pinliang and jumping up to the window. He threw Pinliang on the ground and positioned him in between Tang Yun and Tang Yun. After doing all this, Lin Yi quickly returned downstairs to Heibao's side. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment and threw Heibao in the back of the van. He was not at ease and hit several acupuncture points on his body. This time, Heibao might not wake up for 2 or 3 hours. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't stay here. He drove Heibao's van and wanted to find a quiet place to check on Tang Yun. If Lin Yi's guess was correct, Tang Yun was drugged with a strong aphrodisiac effect. The car hadn't gone far when Tang Yun's body moved. Hot. So hot. Tang Yun woke up? Lin Yi glanced at Tang Yun, who was in the passenger seat. He didn't know if she was awake or in a half-conscious state, but her body was wriggling on the seat as if she was in great pain. Tang Yun? Lin Yi tried calling her name. Yeah, hot. I'm so hot. Tang Yun responded subconsciously when she heard Lin Yi's voice, but her body was still squirming uncontrollably. I'm so hot. So hot. Linny sighed and stopped the car in a small alley. Tang Yin seemed to have woken up already and had some consciousness. She wasn't completely unconscious. As skilled as Master Lin was, there was nothing he could do. His old comrades were all men, and it was almost impossible for them to be drugged. As a result, Linny didn't even bother researching how to deal with it. He didn't have enough time to do that. He scratched his head as he looked at Tang Yun's blushing cheeks. He couldn't help but gulp. "Don't tempt me, little girl. It's hot." It seemed like the medicine was starting to take effect as Tang Yun started to pull up her clothes. Linny jumped in fright. He turned to Tang Yun. "Hey, what are you doing? Hot. Help me." Tang Yun didn't listen to Linny. Instead, she started asking for help from Linny. Her hands didn't stop moving. It wasn't easy to unbutton her clothes, so Tang Yun just pulled at it. She tore off her short-sleeved school uniform, revealing the tank top underneath. Tang Yun's strength surprised Linny, but at the same time, the fire Linny had been suppressing flared up once more. Although Linny wasn't a gentleman, he didn't want to take advantage of Tang Yun in a situation like this. With Tang Yun's personality, she probably wouldn't blame him, but she probably wouldn't care about him anymore. As Linny was thinking about it, Tang Yun jumped up from the passenger seat and threw herself at Linny. "Tang Yun, calm down." Linny knew that he had to go to the hospital. Linny thought that it wouldn't look good for a girl like Tang Yun to go to the hospital, but now he couldn't care less. "Hug me. I'm so hot, hug me." Tang Yun looked at Linny in a daze. She reached out to pull at Linny's clothes. "Fuck." Linny pushed Tang Yun away. Wasn't she asking him to make a mistake? "Hey Jiao Lao, are you there? I've always been by your side. I've never gone far," Jiao Lao said. Linny was speechless. "Are you singing a legend?" "What's a legend?" Jiao Lao asked. "It's fine." Linny didn't have time to waste with Jiao Yazi. "Jiao Lao, she's been drugged. Do you have a solution?" "A solution? Let me think." Jiao Yazi fell into deep thought. "A long time ago, I helped Master solve a similar problem. What method did I use?" Although Linny was anxious, he didn't rush Jiao Yazi after hearing that he had a solution. He let Tang Yun kiss, hug, and tear at his clothes. "Oh, I remember now. No, you guys practice different mental cultivation methods," Elder Jiao said in realization. "There's no other way." Linny was speechless. "Yes, the one you practice will work. You just need to use the arts on these acupuncture points, and your energy will enter her body. You'll be able to solve the problem," Jiao Yazi said. Elder Jiao said, "I think I told you before that the energy in your body is omnipotent. You forgot." "How would I know that energy can be used to do this?" Linny smiled bitterly. "Elder Jiao, tell me what to do. I can't take it anymore. I might not be able to hold it for much longer." Jiao Yazi told Linny the names of the acupuncture points. Linny started using the art of dragon mastery. The energy in his body was channeled into Tang Yun's body by Linny. After a while, Tang Yun's body was covered in steam. Half an hour later, Linny breathed a sigh of relief. Tang Yun had completely calmed down. Her face was red as she laid on the passenger seat asleep. Her breathing was stable as well, not as hurried as before. Phew. Linny let out a long breath. "I didn't think that curing the poison would take up so much energy." Linny didn't expect that half of the energy in his body would be used up just to cure the medicine, and he was starting to show signs of tiredness. "Your level is too low," Jiao Yazi said coldly. "Uncle doesn't need to use any energy to do this." Linny rolled his eyes and ignored Jiao Yazi. Jiao Lao already looked like a master. What kind of master was his uncle? He kept comparing himself to his martial uncle. Wasn't that just humiliating him? Chapter 232. The first time Linny sighed, regretful that he'd missed such a good opportunity. But Linny didn't regret it. Things like this were best when both parties were willing. There wasn't much meaning to it if only one of them was drugged. Linny could tell himself that Tang Yun was the one who'd initiated it. But who could he fool with that kind of self-deception? He pulled out his phone and dialed in Lingshan's number. It wasn't long before Lingshan answered, her voice a little tired. "Hello. Linny. What's up?" "I'm in a meeting." "Meeting? So late?" Linny blinked. He'd wanted Lingshan to come pick Heibao up, But Lin Yi didn't have a place to deal with him. Isn't it because of He Bao? He's a dangerous man, and if we don't arrest him soon, he'll be a threat to society. Ling Shan said. Right. You didn't tell me what you wanted. I'll be hanging up if there's nothing else. Oh, then you don't need to continue the meeting then. Just dismiss them, Lin Yi said after hearing Ling Shan's words. Dismiss? What do you mean? Lin Yi, are you joking? Ling Shan blinked, not sure what Lin Yi was getting at. He Bao's here, take him back, Lin Yi said. He Bao? He's here? You found him? You haven't fought him yet, have you? Keep an eye on him. I'll bring some people over right away, Ling Shan said happily before instructing Lin Yi. Don't worry, I beat him half-crippled. He's in the back of my car, Lin Yi said. Half-crippled? Ling Shan was suspicious. Isn't he golden class late phase peak? Why is he crippled? It wasn't that Ling Shan didn't believe in Lin Yi's strength. Peng Zhan had asked Lin Yi to protect Meng Yao, and that meant that he wasn't a simple fighter. But even if he wasn't a simple fighter, a golden class late phase peak wasn't something that could be easily dealt with. I don't know. I probably dropped a level. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't talk about his own matters. In this place, it was better for Lin Yi to keep a low profile. Lose levels? Ling Shan opened her mouth but didn't say anything, because what Lin Yi said wasn't unreasonable. Since He Bao could quickly improve his strength to the peak of the late phase of the golden class, it was also possible that he could fall back to his original level in an instant. Then where are you? I'll come over now. Let me see. I am at the entrance of the alley opposite Komatsu convenience store. Lin Yi looked at the landmark nearby. Little Pine convenience store? Ling Shan frowned, evidently not familiar with small stores like this. But as soon as Ling Shan finished speaking, a colleague knew the location. I know Komatsu convenience store. It's downstairs from my aunt's house. Ling Shan turned to Lin Yi. Then wait for me. I'll be right there. Come by yourself. Hurry up, I have other things to do, Lin Yi said and hung up. He turned his head to see Tang Yin looking at him with her eyes wide open. Lin Yi jumped. Since when did Tang Yin wake up? You're awake. Yeah. Tang Yin was a little embarrassed as she lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Yi's eyes. She wasn't actually sleepy, and she'd been wide awake before. She'd only been looking at Lin Yi after he'd gotten the medicine out of her system, and she'd been feeling a little tired after a short nap. She heard that Lin Yi was talking on the phone, so she didn't disturb him. She didn't think that Lin Yi would look at her right after hanging up. It made her a little nervous, and her face heated up as she remembered what happened earlier. Zhou Ruoming's medicine was imported, the latest technological product. After ingesting it, the person would have some sort of desire, but it wouldn't affect their consciousness. In other words, the person would always be in a conscious state. Tang Yin remembered everything she said and did, and now that she thought about it, she was the one who did such an embarrassing thing. She couldn't face Lin Yi anymore. She wanted to dig a hole in the ground and hide in it. Lin Yi smiled. How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Hearing that Lin Yi cared about her, and didn't tease her or mention what happened before, Tang Yin felt relieved. She shook her head slightly, indicating that she was fine. Thank you. Tang Yin didn't know how to express her feelings. She was shy, grateful, and a little annoyed. She sent herself to him, and Lin Yi didn't want her. What was he thinking? Didn't he like her? It was such a good opportunity, and he didn't do anything to her. Was he different from people like Zhou Ruoming? He didn't just want her body, or was she not attractive enough for him? Tang Yin started to worry as she thought about it. You're welcome, Lin Yi smiled. Wait a bit, I'll send you home. Okay. Tang Yin didn't ask what Lin Yi was going to do, but she heard that Lin Yi was talking on the phone. He was probably waiting for someone. The car fell into silence. Lin Yi didn't say anything, and Tang Yin didn't say anything either. The two just sat there quietly. Lin Yi. Tang Yin pursed her lips, and finally mustered up the courage to ask the question in her heart. Why did you reject it just now? Lin Yi paused. Why did he reject it? Tang Yin actually asked him this question? Did she want him to accept it instead of rejecting it? I mean, don't you like me? If you didn't reject me just now, if we did that, then I would have become your girlfriend too? Tang Yin was panicking as she tried to explain herself. Lin Yi suddenly reached out and touched Tang Yin's hair. You got the order wrong. Tang Yin's body stiffened, but she didn't move away. She let Lin Yi put his hand on her head. What? You became my girlfriend first, then we can do that. Lin Yi smiled. I'm a person with strong principles. Oh, Tang Yin nodded, not really understanding. She touched Lin Yi's hand again. Don't touch my head. It's your fault if I don't grow taller. That was what Tang Yin said, but her heart was in turmoil. Had she misunderstood Lin Yi all this time? Was there a fundamental difference between him and Zhou Ruoming and the others? Ah, Lin Yi smiled. It was the first time Tang Yin acted like a spoiled child in front of him. It was a memorable day. You're tall enough. No one would want you if you got any taller, Lin Yi teased. Then, isn't there still you? Tang Yin didn't know why she said something so bold. She lowered her head after saying it, not daring to look at Lin Yi. Chapter 233. Chapter 233. Heart grows closer. A police car's horn sounded from afar, and Lin Yi could see blue and red lights flashing. Lingshan must have brought people over. Stay in the car and don't go out. I'll be back in a bit. Lin Yi said. Okay. Tang Yin nodded obediently, not arguing with Lin Yi. Lin Yi got off the car and opened the back door, pulling Heibao out. Lingshan was driving a Jinbei police car, not the cheetah she'd been driving. This car was evidently the type used for escorting suspects. Lingshan spotted Lin Yi right away, stopping the car in front of him. She'd heard Lin Yi say that he'd captured Heibao and beaten him to a pulp. But seeing Lin Yi holding Heibao like that still made her mouth drop into an O shape. You came alone, right? Lin Yi only relaxed after seeing that there was no one else in the car. Lingshan was one of the few people who knew about him, after all, and Lin Yi didn't plan on letting more people know about him. You caught him just like that. Lingshan nodded as she got off the car, looking at Heibao in Lin Yi's hands in surprise. Then how am I supposed to catch him? Lin Yi tossed Heibao on the ground. Alright, I've given him to you. I'm leaving. With that, Lin Yi turned around and walked back to the van. Wait, you still have to come back with me for a statement. Lingshan called out to Lin Yi. Make one up yourself. Lin Yi didn't even turn around. I'll give all the credit to you. Just say you caught him yourself. It has nothing to do with me. You. Lingshan was pissed, but this credit. Lingshan knew that catching Heibao was a huge achievement, no less than catching the bank robbers. With these two achievements, her reputation in the police department would reach a peak, and it would be a good start for her to get promoted in the future. If you want me to help you next time, then cut the bullshit. Lin Yi got back in the van and drove away, ignoring Lingshan. Lingshan stomped her feet angrily, picking up Heibao from the ground and throwing him in her car before driving away in the opposite direction from Lin Yi. Right. How did you get brought here? Where's Kong Xiaobo? Lin Yi asked after taking care of Heibao. Kong Xiaobo? I don't know. I left the school with Kong Xiaobo, and Kong Xiaobo said he wanted to take a taxi to the hospital. So he got on a taxi waiting for passengers at the school gate. Tang Yin said. After that, I didn't know anything. And when I woke up, Tang Yin lowered her head shyly as she spoke. Lin Yi frowned and took out his phone, calling Kong Xiaobo. The phone rang for a while before Kong Xiaobo's sleepy voice came through. HM? Hello. Who is it? Xiaobo, it's me. Where are you? Lin Yi listened to Kong Xiaobo, who seemed to have just woken up and relaxed. It seemed like Heibao's main targets were Tang Yin and him, and Kong Xiaobo should be fine. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left the phone with Lin Yi. Where am I? HM. How did I fall asleep on the street? Kong Xiaobo paused and shouted. Oh no, boss, Tang Yin's gone. Boss, I lost Tang Yin. Alright, Tang Yin's fine. She's with me. Where are you? Do you want me to pick you up? Lin Yi asked. I don't know where this is, it's a small street, wait for me. Kong Xiaobo said sleepily. I took a taxi to the hospital with Tang Yin after school. And then I fell asleep. I just woke up now. Lin Yi was speechless. Alright, take a taxi home first. We'll talk tomorrow. Alright, I'm still a little dizzy. I'm relieved that Tang Yin's fine. See you tomorrow. Kong Xiaobo was still in a daze. Lin Yi hung up the phone with a bitter smile. He looked at Tang Yin. You guys might have been drugged. and Kong Xiaobo was thrown on the side of the road. Yes, Tang Yin didn't know who it was that wanted to do this to her. She was scared just thinking about it. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's timely appearance, she would have been. It's so overwhelming. Lin Yi said. I'll let him have it easy today. I'll deal with him later. Ling Shan knew a bit about what happened today from Heibao, so Lin Yi couldn't just kill Zhou Ruoming right away. But that didn't mean he couldn't do it in the future. After this incident, making him disappear from the face of the earth was a simple matter for Lin Yi. Zhou Ruoming. Tang Yin repeated the name a little absent-mindedly before lowering her head and starting to cry. You. Tang Yin, what's wrong? Lin Yi jumped. He didn't expect Tang Yin to cry like that without any warning. It's nothing. It's nothing to do with you. I just want to cry. Tang Yin's voice was choking. Why did they bully me? Why? Just because my family's poor, so I'm easy to bully? Lin Yi sighed softly. Tang Yin's heart must have been suppressing this for a long time, and it only exploded today. This was a young girl complaining about the unfairness of her life. Wasn't Tang Yin's family the same? Mother and daughter were bullied even when they had a barbecue stall. What about other things? It was the same in school. Why would Zhou Ruoming go after Tang Yin instead of Meng Yao and Yushu? He knew that nothing would happen if he bullied Tang Yin. But if he bullied Meng Yao and Yushu, things would get out of hand. It won't happen again. Lin Yi patted Tang Yin's shoulder. He wanted to hug her but hesitated. Just as he was hesitating, Tang Yin leaned into Lin Yi's embrace and started sobbing. Ha! Lin Yi didn't reject this time. He hugged Tang Yin's shoulder and let her cry in his arms. Perhaps Tang Yin didn't think that much. She just wanted someone to cry on, indeed. Tang Yin didn't think too much at the moment. Leaning into Lin Yi's embrace was just to make herself feel more at ease. I'll send you home? Lin Yi asked after Tang Yin calmed down. Tang Yin was startled as she broke free from Lin Yi's arms abruptly, turning her head away in embarrassment as she let out a soft N. Lin Yi smiled, started the car, and drove towards the slums. Chapter 234. Chapter 234. Mrs. Tang's misunderstanding. Lin Yi parked the car at the spot he always parked in the slums. Then, I'll be leaving? Tang Yin was still a little embarrassed to face Lin Yi. Her crazy actions made her feel ashamed. I'll drive you. Lin Yi locked the car and got off with Tang Yin. Lin Yi looked at the tattered Tang Yin and took off his uniform, handing it to Tang Yin. Can you wear mine? Tang Yin hesitated, but didn't reject him. She was fine in the car. But now that she was back in the slums, she didn't know what people would think if they saw her dressed like this. Tang Yin took off her tattered uniform and passed it to Lin Yi. She quickly put on Lin Yi's uniform. The moment she changed, Tang Yin was only wearing a tight tank top. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. An 18-year-old girl had already matured to perfection. He didn't think that a rundown place like the slums could nurture a beauty like Tang Yin. Compared to Ming Yao's thin figure and Yushu's plump figure, Tang Yin's figure was the most perfect. He didn't know how she managed to grow it. Lin Yi thought. Tang Yin was wearing Lin Yi's uniform. Although the style was different for boys and girls, it wasn't too obvious at night. It was just a little loose. She turned around after putting on her clothes, only to see that Lin Yi wasn't wearing anything on his upper body. It's almost summer. It's not hot. It's fine. Lin Yi smiled casually. Then, you'll wear mine? Tang Yin was touched and embarrassed at the same time. Wear yours. Lin Yi paused, putting aside the question of whether or not he'd be able to wear it. The girl's fragrance alone was enough to intoxicate him. Then you should wear it. You'll catch a cold. Tang Yin remembered that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to wear her own clothes. Although there were a lot of naked men in the slums during the summer, Tang Yin was used to them sitting together and playing cards and eating. But it was only spring. Although the weather was hot, no one would be naked at this time of the year. People would think that they were crazy. Lin Yi put Tang Yin's clothes on him. The intoxicating fragrance from the clothes intensified. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know why, but he reached out to grab Tang Yin's hand. Ah! Tang Yin's body froze when Lin Yi grabbed her hand. She wanted to shake it off, but she didn't want to. Her palms were wet with sweat as her breathing quickened. It was Tang Yin's first time being held by the opposite sex. It was the second time. The first time was when she was harassed by Li Erlin, and when Linny pulled her into the car. But she didn't think too much about it. This time, Tang Yun felt as if she was being electrocuted. She was nervous and excited. Was this the feeling of first love? Tang Yun was a bit lost. Her mind was blank as Linny pulled her hand and slowly walked forward. The two of them walked side by side in the old alley of the shantytown without a word. They looked like a couple returning home at night. Tang Yun snapped back to reality when they were almost home. She didn't know where she got the strength from, but she pushed Lin Yi's hand away and raised her head. I'm almost there. Should we go back? Since we're already here, a few more steps won't matter. Linny smiled and continued walking. Oh, Tang Yun thought. What did he mean by a few more steps? Her mother would definitely misunderstand if they were to go back like this. But would it be a misunderstanding? The two walked closer and saw that Tang Yun's house was brightly lit. Even the lights in the yard were lit. Tang Yun was confused. Why would the usually frugal family light up the yard for no reason? She walked 2 steps closer and saw her mother standing at the door, looking around anxiously. Tang Yun subconsciously called out, "Mom!" But she regretted it after yelling. Linny was still next to her. Although the two had let go of each other, they were still together at this late. Tang Yun wanted Lin Yi to walk her to the door and then leave. That way, her mother wouldn't be able to see him, but now, Yin, you're back. Mrs. Tang was surprised and happy to see Tang Yun return. You scared me to death. You're finally back. Ah, Mom, what are you? Tang Yun didn't know what was going on. You didn't go to the hospital after school, and you didn't go home. I asked Lu Xingwen, but she didn't know either. I was so worried that I called the police, but they said that you haven't been missing for long enough. There's nothing I can do. I can only wait here. Finally, you're back. Mrs. Tang nagged. She suddenly saw Linny beside Tang Yun. She paused and awkwardly said, "So you went out to play with Linny? It's okay. Next time you go out to play, give me a call. Don't make me so worried." "Mom, I didn't go out to play." Tang Yin explained, subconsciously embarrassed. Linny sighed. He wanted to stop her, but it was too late. If Tang Yun were to tell Mrs. Tang about what happened tonight, it would definitely scare the hell out of Mrs. Tang. He wanted her to play along with Mrs. Tang's words, but it was impossible now. All right. You didn't go out to play, okay? You guys went to school together." Mrs. Tang seemed to be very happy that her daughter and Lin Yi were together. The worry she had before was gone. "Mom, Tang Yin was speechless. How could her mother be like this? In your uniform?" Mrs. Tang's eyes stopped on the uniform Tang Yin was wearing. This was definitely not her daughter's uniform. She saw her daughter's uniform every day. How could she not know? The uniform looked similar from afar, but the style was different. Most importantly, it was a size bigger than her daughter's uniform. Whose uniform was Tang Yun wearing? She then turned to look at the clothes Lin Yi was wearing, only to find that it was a torn school uniform. It seemed to be her daughter's, wasn't it? Mrs. Tang was shocked. You and Lin Yi. After all, her daughter was wearing Lin Yi's uniform, and Lin Yi was wearing her daughter's uniform. Could it be that the two of them? Mrs. Tang's heart skipped a beat as she thought of something bad. She approved of her daughter going out with Lin Yi, but it didn't mean that Mrs. Tang approved of them having a relationship so early. Mrs. Tang wasn't stupid. She knew what Xiaofan was going through. "Mom, don't think too much." Tang Yin knew that her mother was thinking the wrong thing. She glared at Lin Yi. "Why aren't you leaving?" Chapter 235. Chapter 235, Tang Yin's prank. Mrs. Tang had wanted to stop Lin Yi and ask him how he wanted to treat her daughter, but her daughter chased her away. She sighed helplessly. "All right, come visit when you're free." Lin Yi really couldn't stay for long too. Tang Yin was getting more and more out of hand, and Mrs. Tang was treating him as the culprit behind her daughter's death. How could Lin Yi not leave? He got into Heibao's van, and Lin Yi drove to Mengyao's villa. The van was a little broken, but it wasn't as flashy as Yushu's Beetle. Lin Yi decided to take it for himself and get a license plate from Lingshan. Getting Huaijuan to do something for him was just a matter of a word. But he still wanted Lingshan. He'd helped this girl out so many times. And if she didn't want to do something for him, he'd just ignore her from now on. It was only after Linny left that Tang Yin grabbed her mother's hand. "Mom, what are you doing?" "What do you mean what?" "Yin, this is a big deal. What if he doesn't take responsibility?" Mrs. Tang panicked. "Why are you so dumb? Haven't you learned your lesson from Fun?" Tang Yin looked at her mother's nervous face, and for some reason, a mischievous thought popped up in her head. "Weren't you the one who told me to be friends with Lin Yi? Why are you blaming me now?" Mrs. Tang was speechless. She was right. She was the one who'd encouraged her daughter to be friends with Lin Yi. And now she was blaming her daughter? Mrs. Tang felt a wave of sadness wash over her at the thought. She'd thought that Lin Yi was from a good family, and that her daughter wouldn't be at a disadvantage if she followed him. But now that something like this had really happened, she was starting to panic. Tang Yun wasn't in the mood to continue joking after seeing her mother's expression. "All right, Mom, it's not what you think." "Huh?" Mrs. Tang paused. "Aren't you?" "It's not that, Mom. Actually, I was captured by bad guys today, and Lin Yi saved me." Tang Yin didn't hide anything as she told her mom about how she was almost killed by Zhou Ruoming. She also told her mom about how she was drugged, and how Lin Yi saved her. She lowered her head in embarrassment when she told her mom that she was the one who tore off her clothes. "It's not that. Mom, I actually got caught by bad guys today. Lin Yi saved me." Mrs. Tang was shocked and angry at the same time when she heard that Zhou Ruoming almost killed her. She hugged Tang Yin. "It's all Mom's fault. I can't protect you." "Mom, don't say that. You've already given me enough." Tang Yin wasn't an immature child. She knew that her mother had been working hard for the family. "That Zhou Ruoming is such a jerk. Thank goodness we had Lin Yi, or else." "Sigh," Mrs. Tang said, a little scared. "But do you think Lin Yi didn't do anything to you in that situation?" "Yeah." Tang Yin nodded. This was the reason why her impression of Lin Yi had changed. It was also because of this that Tang Yin didn't hate him anymore. He was different from people like Zhou Ruoming and Pin Liang. "Then I've wronged you." Mrs. Tang was confused. There was no reason for Lin Yi to reject a situation like this. Why did he reject her? What did that mean? Lin Yi doesn't like you? Mrs. Tang suddenly thought of a possibility. Perhaps Lin Yi didn't like Tang Yin at all. It was all wishful thinking. Tang Yin paused. "Mom, why do you ask? Why would he reject you if he liked you? I've been around your age, and I understand how young people think. It's the only possibility that he could reject me in that situation." Mrs. Tang analyzed. Mom, don't ask so many questions." Tang Yin shook Mrs. Tang's arm, embarrassed. "Why can't I ask so many questions? Of course I have to know what you're doing." Mrs. Tang was getting more and more nervous. If Lin Yi didn't like her daughter, then wouldn't their family continue to be poor? He said that as long as I agree to go out with him, he'll. Tang Yun was so embarrassed that she ran back into the house, ignoring her mother who was standing there. "Oh." Mrs. Tang was glad to hear that, but she shook her head. "Lin Yi isn't a bad kid. He'll treat Yin well in the future." Mrs. Tang was happy at that thought. Songshan's First People's Hospital, an ICU room. Lingshan and a couple of police officers were sitting in front of an office table. Lingshan frowned as she looked at her colleagues helplessly. "Do you guys have any ideas?" Heibao had woken up, but he didn't say anything about the sudden increase in strength. It was as if he could do whatever they wanted with him, and Lingshan couldn't do anything about it. After all, Heibao's sudden increase in strength had nothing to do with the case, and Lingshan couldn't force him to say anything if he didn't want to talk about it. She was just curious. "Boss Song, I think we should just let it go. He doesn't have any strength now, and there's nothing we can do if he doesn't want to talk about it. This has nothing to do with the case, and we'll just send him back to the jail and close the case," a subordinate suggested. He was making sense, after all, and Lingshan couldn't look into things that had nothing to do with the case. Just as Lingshan was struggling, a police officer came running out of the room. "Captain Song," he said. "He said? What did he say?" Lingshan asked. "He said that he used some kind of pill a long time ago, and that he could use it to push his strength to its peak anytime he wanted. But it wouldn't be long before he returned to normal." The officer said. Heibao wanted to sleep, and I got annoyed with him, so he told me. Ah. Ling Shan's face darkened upon hearing the report. Saying something like that was as good as not saying anything at all. There was no value in it. But Heibao really wasn't lying. He did use a similar pill a long time ago, and he could use it with his sex arts to make his strength explode. Ling Shan thought about how weak Heibao was right now, and decided to believe him. There was nothing she could do about it. Heibao had indeed been crippled by Lin Yi, and if it weren't for the fact that he'd lost a level, she wouldn't believe that Lin Yi was that strong. Chapter 236. I'm looking for thief Lin Lin. He parked the van in front of Mengyao villa, right next to Yushu's beetle. The beetle was suitable for carrying Mengyao or Yushu out on business, but the van had a lot of uses. Lin Yi was planning on going to his room to change his clothes after entering the villa, but Mengyao and Yushu were watching TV in the living room. They froze when they saw Lin Yi walk in. Lin Yi, what are you doing? Acting like a gangster? Mengyao looked at Lin Yi confused. Didn't you invite Pinliang for dinner? What happened to you? Don't talk about it. I'll change my clothes first. Lin Yi said as he walked to his room. That guy wanted to mess with me. He got someone to teach me a lesson, and now I'm like this. Lin Yi didn't want to talk too much about Tang Yin's situation, only saying that Pinliang wanted to get someone to deal with him, and that's why his clothes were like this. Yushu looked at Lin Yi's back, confused. Mengyao, on the other hand, wasn't paying attention to Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi took off Tang Yin's uniform, wanting to throw it away, but decided to put it in the closet after some hesitation. It was Tang Yin's clothes after all. And while Lin Yi didn't have the hobbies of collecting things used by pretty girls, Lin Yi felt that if he were to get closer to Tang Yin in the future, it'd be a memento. After taking a shower, Lin Yi walked out of his room with a new set of clothes. Shield bro, tell me what's fun today. Yushu was a curious baby, always wanting to get to the bottom of things. She wouldn't stop asking questions whenever she saw Lin Yi. It's nothing, Pinliang just doesn't like me. He wanted to teach me a lesson, but he never got the chance. But Heibao got in touch with him, and he wants to use Heibao to teach me a lesson. Lin Yi said simply. Heibao. Mengyao blinked. Lin Yi, you're saying that Pinliang got Heibao to deal with you again? Yeah, what's wrong? Lin Yi asked, confused by Mengyao's attitude. I heard my dad say that Heibao's strength skyrocketed all of a sudden, beating up a special forces soldier who just came back. Mengyao said. Are you alright? But Mengyao regretted asking the question right after. It was obvious that nothing had happened to him, and asking him was a waste of time. It's nothing. Heibao's gotten a lot stronger, but he dropped a level again after meeting me. Lin Yi smiled. I beat him up and sent him to the police station. Mengyao said. What'd Lin Yi saying? Heibao said Heibao just happened to drop a level? Did he think this was a game? Yushu, on the other hand, wasn't going to let Lin Yi go so easily. She started asking for details. Shield bro, tell me, how did you torture Heibao this time? Torture? Lin Yi looked at the excited Yushu. So this girl had a tendency? Lin Yi, of course, couldn't tell her the details. But who didn't know how to bullshit? Yushu couldn't believe her ears, as she listened to a random scene of a fight. Alright Shu, let's go to bed. Don't listen to violent stuff all the time. It's bad for your soul. Mengyao wasn't too interested in what Lin Yi was talking about. She wasn't as curious as Yushu was. Heibao's life or death had nothing to do with her. But I like it, Yao Yao. It sounds like a storytelling. Yushu said. Alright, I'm done. It's time to sleep. It's not pretty if you don't get enough sleep. Mengyao said. I'm going up. You can listen if you want. With that, Mengyao turned around and went upstairs. Yushu stuck her tongue out at Lin Yi. Shield bro, tell me another day then. Another day? I don't have time. Lin Yi shook his head. He didn't have the time to tell a story to a curious child. The clothes you're wearing today aren't yours. Hee. With that, Yushu ran after Mengyao. Wait for me, Yao Yao. Lin Yi paused, a bitter smile on his face. He'd thought that the toilet paper incident and Yushu were even. He'd seen her asking for toilet paper at school, so she wouldn't use the word toilet paper to threaten him anymore. They were pretty much the same after all. What he didn't expect was that the toilet paper incident was followed by a school uniform incident right after that. This girl's observation skills weren't just average. With a shake of his head, Lenny went back to his room. In the North District, in a 2-story building, a blood-curdling scream came from within. This was something Lenny hadn't foreseen. Originally, Lenny just wanted to throw Pinliang up there and let Zhou Ruoming pretend that Pinliang was Tang Yun in the dark, kissing him to disgust him. But things changed quickly, and Pinliang's tragedy was even worse. Zhou Ruoming didn't expect that the more nervous he was, the more useless he became. He took 2 pills, but there was no reaction at all. In a fit of rage, he blamed everything on Tang Yun. He thought that it was because Tang Yun was Lin Yi's girlfriend, and it made him feel like he was using second-hand goods. That was why he wasn't interested at all. This triggered Zhou Ruoming's anger. He grabbed his belt and was about to teach Tang Yun a lesson. And so, after Zhou Ruoming ran in, he started whipping Tang Yun on the ground with his belt. After hearing Pinliang's blood-curdling scream, he realized that something was wrong. The next morning, Lenny was woken up by his phone ringing. He thought it was Kong Xiaobo, but it was an unknown number. "Hello." Lenny picked up. The person on the other side of the phone was silent for a while before asking carefully, "Are you the great thief?" "Huh." Lenny was stunned. "What great thief? You dialed the wrong number." With that, Lenny hung up. Sun Jingyi looked at the phone confused. She didn't dial the wrong number, did she? Could it be that the identity of Taoist was a secret, and he didn't dare to reveal it, so he rejected her directly? It seemed like that was the only possibility, but Sun Jingyi didn't have anyone suitable to help her right now. She could only dial Lin Yi's number. Lin Yi saw the same number and didn't want to pick it up, but the phone kept ringing. Lin Yi had no choice but to pick it up. "Hello? Didn't I tell you that I dialed the wrong number? Are you done?" Chapter 237. Half of the man's offer no. Lin Yi wanted to cuss. Was there something wrong with her getting up so early in the morning? Calling for a thief? Wait. Thief Lin? Wasn't his surname Lin? Who are you looking for? Lin Yi asked. "I'm looking for the great thief, Mr. Lin Yi." Sun Jingyi didn't understand why Lin Yi wouldn't admit it. "You are?" Lin Yi sweated. This call really was for him. But since when did he become a great thief? "I'm Sun Jingyi. Do you remember that day at the Floating Cloud Bar?" Sun Jingyi was afraid that Lin Yi would hang up again, so she blurted it all out in one breath. "Oh, so it's you." The image of Sun Jingyi's elegant and mature figure appeared in Lin Yi's mind. "What's up?" "I want to ask you to come out of retirement," Sun Jingyi said carefully. "Come out of retirement? Don't tell me you're still pretending to be your boyfriend?" Lin Yi was startled. This Sun Jingyi was pretty interesting, coming up with the phrase "come out of retirement." But this girl was pretty dumb too. He lied to her about being a great thief, and she actually believed him? "No. I have something else I need your help with," Sun Jingyi said. "I want you to help me steal a document from a company." "Steal a document?" Lin Yi was startled. Did this girl really think of him as a great thief? Steal a document? "Yes, Lin Yi, can you help? I can pay you a lot," Sun Jingyi said. Oh, Lin Yi was about to refuse, but he changed his mind when he heard Sun Jingyi say a lot. "Steal what document? How much are you going to pay?" Lin Yi was in dire need of money right now. Although Pengzhan had given Lin Yi a credit card with unlimited overdrafts, Lin Yi always felt like he was living off a woman. Moreover, Lin Yi didn't know how to spend the money as he pleased. For example, Lin Yi could use his own money to pay for Xiaofun's medical fees. But if he used his credit card, it would be troublesome if Faubert asked about it. Therefore, Lin Yi intended to make a sum of money as soon as possible. Moreover, his business plan required a large sum of money. Even if he had a few formulas and Xuemin's reputation, it wouldn't be easy to start a company and build a factory. He would need a lot of money to start a company. It's a video of an employee of my company giving a commission to a supervisor of a company, Jingyi said. "You know that my company is in the trades. Commissions and rebates aren't a secret in the industry. But a competitor took a video of it and was planning to leak it to the media," Jingyi said. Oh, and then Lin Yi listened to Sun Jingyi's explanation and roughly understood the situation. It wasn't anything complicated. This way, the company will be punished and its reputation will be damaged. Sun Jingyi said. Then they must have some conditions to threaten you, right? You didn't agree to their conditions, and instead asked me to steal the information at a high price. Why do I feel like you're asking for something far away? There was one more thing that Linny didn't say. Did she think that the price of stealing the information from him would be lower than the other party's conditions? Master Lin's price was never low. Did Sun Jingyi really think that it would be the same as last time, 1,000 yuan? The other party's conditions. Sun Jingyi clenched her teeth. It wasn't that she hadn't contacted the company before, but the boss had said that if she slept with him for a night, the incident would be over, and the video would be returned to her. But how could Sun Jingyi agree to that? How about this? I'll take 50% of their conditions. I'm a very fair person, and I don't cheat anyone. Linny said. I still have things to do. Call me when you're done. Linny saw Sun Jingyi's hesitation and hung up. They'd only met once. Did this girl think he was a laborer? There was a fee for leaving the mountain. Pin Liang limped into the classroom, his eyes filled with hatred as he looked at Lin Yi's seat coldly. But he didn't dare show it. Heibao Bro had been sent to prison by Linny again. Moreover, he had been beaten into a half-cripple. Pin Liang had heard about this since last night. Fabai was a well-known figure in Songshan, and naturally, he had friends in the police department. He didn't know how Linny beat up Heibao Bro and sent him to prison. But Lin Yi's strength was not to be underestimated. Heibao Bro had reached the peak of the late phase of the golden class, and could even walk on walls. But he was defeated by Linny again. Just how strong was Linny? If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be a man. The humiliation Pin Liang had suffered last night was something he would never be able to remember for the rest of his life. And it was all thanks to Linny. Linny, as soon as I get the chance, I'll make you regret being born into this world. Pin Liang clenched his fists. Boss, I'm really sorry for last night. I couldn't take care of sis-in-law Tang Yin. Kong Xiaobo blamed himself. It's not your fault. There's probably something wrong with that taxi. Linny said. Oh right, how are you? Are you okay? I'm fine. They probably didn't do anything to me. Kong Xiaobo said. Oh right, boss. What happened after you and Pin Liang had dinner yesterday? Why is he limping today? Hemorrhoids? Buffed. Lin Yi's eyes widened in shock. Was this Zhou Ruoming blind? Did he think that Pin Liang was Tang Yin? How else could it have this effect? Linny speculated maliciously. Who knows? Yesterday Pin Liang called Heibao over to deal with me again, but I sent him to the police station again. Linny explained, and didn't mention Tang Yin's capture. Linny didn't want to talk about Tang Yin. Kong Xiaobo also saw that Linny didn't want to talk about it, so he didn't ask anymore. The most important thing was that Tang Yin was safe. Alright boss, do you think Fun and I, are we compatible? Kong Xiaobo had been thinking about this question for the past few days, and it made him feel lost. If it was love at first sight, it would be more accurate to say that Kong Xiaobo fell in love with Fun's beauty. Although it wasn't as beautiful as Tang Yin, it was enough to shock Kong Xiaobo. After knowing what happened to Fun, Kong Xiaobo felt pity for this girl from the bottom of his heart. Especially when he saw Fun's helpless and pitiful expression. It gave Kong Xiaobo the urge to protect her for the rest of her life. This was also the reason why Kong Xiaobo was so passionate these past few days. 18 years old was an age where one could go through fire and water for love. But after the impulse, Kong Xiaobo had to think deeply about his and Fun's future. Chapter 238. Tang Yun has a date. Kong Xiaobo wanted to know if he really liked Xiao Fun, or if it was just a moment of impulsiveness. So he asked Linny for advice. It's too early to think about this. Linny naturally knew what Kong Xiaobo was conflicted about. He patted his shoulder. Right now, it's not about whether you two are compatible or not. It's about whether Xiao Fun will accept you or not. That's right. Kong Xiaobo was reminded by Lin Yi, and he suddenly realized that it was all his wishful thinking. He wanted to be with Xiao Fun, but Xiao Fun might not be able to be with him. If you really have feelings for her, you can try to interact with her. As time goes by, you will naturally be able to confirm your feelings. Linny said. But no matter what decision you make, you must not hurt Xiaofan. You can afford to hurt her, but she can't. Don't worry, boss. I understand. I won't tell Fin about this until I'm absolutely sure of my own feelings. Xiaobo said with a sigh of relief. Tang Yun didn't sleep well last night. She was chatting with her mother for the first half of the night. Although it was a chat, it was all about Lin Yi. Tang Yun's head was spinning, and she didn't dare to say anything wrong. Her mother finally fell asleep, and Tang Yun wasn't too sleepy anymore. She remembered that Lin Yi's clothes were still with her, so she got up and helped Lin Yi wash them. The next day, she brought the clothes to school, but she was troubled. How was she going to give the clothes to Lin Yi? Send it directly to his class? Wouldn't people misunderstand? After the first class, Tang Yun held the clothes in her hands, hesitating if she should give it to Lin Yi. She wanted to stand up a few times, but she sat back down. Tang Yun was angry at herself. Why couldn't she be more decisive? What's the big deal with giving him clothes? But if she asked for a formula from Lin Yi, the whole school would be in an uproar. If she gave the clothes to Lin Yi, what would people say? They might even think that she and Lin Yi were sleeping together. Tang Yun flinched at the thought of that. Right, she could ask Lu Xingwen for help. She suddenly thought of her best friend Lu Xingwen. She could ask her to make an appointment with Lin Yi. Wouldn't it be fine if they met at the school field after class? Tang Yun put down the clothes in her hands and quickly walked out of the classroom, heading towards Lu Xingwen's class. After the second period, Xingwen came to Class 5's classroom with a heavy heart. She sighed at how depraved Yun Yun was, asking Lin Yi to meet her in the field. After the second class, Lu Xingwen came to Class 5's classroom with a heavy heart. She thought that Tang Yun had really fallen, asking Lin Yi to the school field. Lu Xingwen wanted to ask her why she wanted to meet Lin Yi, but the 10 minutes after class wasn't enough. Lu Xingwen had no choice but to quickly agree. She planned to ask Tang Yun in detail at noon or at night. Hey, look for Lin Yi in your class. Lu Xingwen was a tough person and didn't care about anything. She grabbed a student from Class 5 and said, "Oh wait." The student didn't think much and went into the classroom to call for Lin Yi. Lin Yi wondered who was looking for him. He walked out of the classroom and saw that it was Lu Xingwen. "What's the matter?" "Lin Yi, what's your relationship with Tang Yun?" Lu Xingwen didn't want to ask Tang Yun, so she came to question Lin Yi. "Me and Tang Yun? Tang Yun, huh?" Lin Yi looked at Lu Xingwen's expression and found it funny. "What's my relationship with her? You don't know? Then are you dating her?" Lu Xingwen asked straightforwardly. She wasn't a pretentious person, so she said what she wanted to say. "Not yet," Lin Yi said honestly. "What are you here for? Just to ask me about this? I don't think you're that gossipy. If you're in the mood, why don't you ask Kong Xiaobo if he's dating Xiaofan?" "I'm just asking." Xingwen curled her lips, but let out a sigh of relief when she got Lin Yi's reply. From what she could see, Lin Yi didn't seem like someone who liked to lie. He was a man of his word, and he wouldn't lie to people about small things like this. "Then it's fine? If there's nothing else, I'm going back." Lin Yi rolled his eyes. Was this girl crazy? Why did she come to ask about this after class? Even Tang Yun's mother wasn't as gossipy as her. "Wait, Tang Yun asked you to wait for her under the tree on the left side of the field after the fourth period," Lu Xingwen said, and left without waiting for Lin Yi's reply. Under the tree on the left side of the field? Lin Yi rubbed his nose. Was this the first time Tang Yun asked him out? Back in the classroom, Kong Xiaobo couldn't wait and asked, "Boss, I saw Lu Xingwen looking for you. What's up?" "Don't worry, Xiaofan is fine. It's my problem." Lin Yi could guess what Kong Xiaobo was thinking. One sentence was enough to make him feel at ease. Hearing that it wasn't Xiaofan's problem, Kong Xiaobo nodded and didn't ask anymore. During the exercise break, Lin Yi saw Zhou Ruoming sitting under the basketball hoop with a sad face. The fourth-year students didn't need to participate in the exercise break, so the school didn't restrict these students. The so-called fourth year was actually a cram school for college entrance exams. In order to increase their income, some high schools would set up similar cram schools. The target was not only the third-year students who didn't get into college, but also students from other schools or society who didn't get into college. As long as they paid the money, they would be able to stay in the 4th year forever. Lenny looked at Zhou Ruoming indifferently. Lenny had already marked this person with a death mark. Lenny wouldn't let go of anyone who dared to make a move on the people around him. A few classes away, Lenny saw Tang Yin and waved at her. Tang Yin glared at Lin Yi and turned away shyly, not looking at him anymore. Meng Yao and Yushu were always the focus of most boys. During the exercise break, many people would stare at them, but they were already used to it. Pin Liang stood by the window of the teaching building, his eyes moving from Meng Yao to Lin Yi. Ever since Lin Yi showed up, he'd never been able to do anything so smoothly. This person must disappear from his sight. Pin Liang was thinking about it angrily when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He took it out and saw that it was his father, Zhong Fabai. Dad, Pin Liang was confused. Usually, Fabai wouldn't call him when he was in school. Chapter 239. Chapter 239. The girl under the tree. Fabai called to confirm Pin Liang's intentions, to see if he was going to meet Heibao. Heibao bro's looking for me? Pin Liang paused before agreeing without hesitation. I'll meet him. Not only did he fail to kill Lin Yi this time, but he even sent Heibao bro to jail once more. This made Pin Liang hate Lin Yi to the core. He wanted to ask Heibao bro what Lin Yi was capable of, to be able to make Heibao bro suffer again. Alright, I'll pick you up at school later at noon. Don't tell anyone about this. Fabai relaxed a little at Pin Liang's words. He was worried that his son wouldn't know any better and wouldn't meet Heibao. It'd be bad if Heibao wasn't happy about it. But Pin Liang's straightforwardness surprised Fabai a little. Got it, Dad. Pin Liang hung up the phone and clenched his teeth as he clutched his wounds. He was unconscious yesterday, but was woken up by a slap with a belt. Pin Liang had never been beaten like this before, and it shocked and angered him at the same time. He realized that he'd been tricked by Lin Yi after he asked for the reason. Zhou Ruoming had mistaken him for Tang Yin, and while Pin Liang was annoyed, he was glad that Zhou Ruoming had beaten him up. What if Zhou Ruoming had hugged him and called him Tang Yin? Wouldn't that be disgusting? The more Pin Liang thought about it, the more he felt that Lin Yi was despicable. 4th period ended, and Lin Yi stood up in a hurry to go to his appointment. Xiaobo called out to him. Boss, are you going to the washroom? I'm not going. Lin Yi was speechless. Then why don't you come with me? I'm going, Kong Xiaobo said. I'm going on a date. You go by yourself. Lin Yi patted Kong Xiaobo's shoulder. Why was this guy so annoying today? Why was he asking him to go to the washroom? Then hurry up and go. Only then did Kong Xiaobo react. He was a little embarrassed. Boss, I'll talk to you at noon. Actually, I have something to talk to you about. Then let's talk at noon. Lin Yi quickly ran out of the classroom. He didn't know if Tang Yin was in a hurry, because of Kong Xiaobo. At noon, the sun shone brightly on the open sports field. Apart from a few students playing basketball, there were not many people playing on the sports field at this time. Zhou Ruoming made a layup, but he suddenly saw Lin Yi walking out of the building. He lost his balance and fell to the ground. The basketball in his hand also flew to the side. He had already developed some psychological trauma towards Lin Yi. This guy was not human. Although there was no evidence to prove that it was Lin Yi who did it, was there still a need for evidence? There was no need at all. Heibao bro was nowhere to be found, and Pin Liang was knocked out and left at Tang Yin's place. If this wasn't Lin Yi's doing, then was it Superman? Was it Ultraman? Zhou Ruoming didn't expect Lin Yi to be this strong. He tried to do something to Tang Yin yesterday, so when he saw Lin Yi, he subconsciously thought that Lin Yi was here to cause trouble. That's why he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Lin Yi looked at Zhou Ruoming coldly. In Lin Yi's eyes, Zhou Ruoming was no different from an ant. He could make him disappear in a matter of minutes, but not now. The situation in Songshan wasn't clear, and Lin Yi didn't want to get involved. He didn't want to cause too much trouble. Plus, Lin Yi had really fallen in love with the school life. The days of bullets and bullets had made Lin Yi sick of it. At the end of the day, Lin Yi was still an 18-year-old boy, throwing himself into the environment that an 18-year-old should be living in. It was new and exciting. That distant youth's maturity was buried deep in his heart. Lin Yi quickly made his way to the small forest at the side of the field. A beautiful girl stood under the shade of the trees, her eyes bright and alluring. A light breeze brushed past her skirt, giving off the feeling of a main character from the school's manga. Seeing Lenny run past, the girl's lips curved into a charming smile before shyly lowering her head. Lenny ran in front of her. Tang Yun, you've been here for a while? Kong Xiaobo was bothering me, so I wasted some time. I just got here. Tang Yun shook her head and took a deep breath. She reached her hands out from behind and handed them over. I've already washed your clothes yesterday. Ah. Lenny didn't expect Tang Yun to call him over for his school uniform. Why do you need to wash it? It's not like it's dirty when you wear it, and you smell. Don't say it. Tang Yun raised her fist, a little embarrassed as she pretended to hit Lin Yi. How can you not be serious? I'm leaving. Let's go back together. I need to go back too. Lin Yi pointed at the school building. Yeah, it was on the way. Tang Yun hesitated for a moment, but didn't say anything. She walked forward lightly. Lin Yi quietly followed beside her. There weren't many people on the field, but there were some who'd heard about Lin Yi and Tang Yun's relationship. They didn't believe it before, but now that they saw them walking together, they couldn't help but think that the love letter incident was real. Everyone sighed, but didn't dare get close. What kind of existence was Lin Yi? He was one of the young bullies who'd beaten up Zhou Ruoming and Pinliang, and was still running rampant in the school. Who would dare to criticize such a person face to face? As they passed by the basketball hoop, Lin Yi saw Wang Jifeng scolding Zhou Ruoming's students with a serious face. Zhou Ruoming and his lackeys had a sad look on their faces. You're here to prepare for the university entrance exams, but you only play basketball and smoke. What are you doing here? If you don't want to study, then get the hell out of here. There's a limited number of people who want to come. Wang Jifeng was in charge of the fourth-year cram school, and he had the power to kick out any student he wanted. These students weren't students themselves, so he didn't need to report to the school or the education bureau. Lin Yi stopped walking, but Tang Yun was avoiding his gaze, not daring to look at Zhou Ruoming. She wanted to walk away quickly, but Lin Yi grabbed her hand. Ah! Tang Yun cried out, but it attracted Wang Jifeng and Zhou Ruoming's attention. Jifeng saw Lin Yi and Tang Yun holding hands in the field, and felt a little awkward. He was the dean, and he was reprimanding a student, and there were other students holding hands in the middle of school. He couldn't do anything about it at all. Wang Jifeng could only smile and nod at Lin Yi, hoping that he'd pull Tang Yun away. They could flirt wherever they wanted, as long as it wasn't right under his nose. Chapter 240. Face Slap. Dean Wang, do you mind if I take up a minute of your time? Lin Yi smiled at Wang Jifeng. Ah, I don't mind, it's fine, it's fine. Wang Jifeng was troubled. He couldn't control himself, and got caught red-handed by Lin Yi in the office. He wouldn't have to do this otherwise. Lin Yi nodded, and pulled the panicking Tang Yun towards Zhou Ruoming. Tang Yun tried to pull her hand out of Lin Yi's grasp, but she wasn't as strong as he was. Tang Yun was stupefied at this point. Holding hands with a boy in front of the dean was something she didn't even dare think about. He might even be expelled from the school. But the dean didn't seem to notice it at all. He was still treating Lin Yi with that kind, friendly face of his. Truth be told, Tang Yun was afraid of Zhou Ruoming from the bottom of her heart. It was a fear that came from the heart. Zhou Ruoming did things without a care in the world, and she didn't know what Zhou Ruoming would do to her next. But she didn't feel that way towards Lin Yi, not in the past, and definitely not now. Slap. A loud slap landed on Zhou Ruoming's face. Wang Jifeng was shocked, and so were Zhou Ruoming's lackeys. Even Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Did he just slap Ruoming in front of the dean? Zhou Ruoming's eyes were filled with hatred and fear after the shock. Zhou Ruoming was truly afraid of Lin Yi. The kid was too ruthless, and not just any normal kind of ruthless person. I slapped you to wake you up. Tang Yun is my woman. If you try anything on her again, I'll make you disappear from this school. Lin Yi's words were ambiguous. Disappear from the school. Lin Yi's intention was to make him disappear from the face of the earth. Overbearing. Arrogant. Arrogant. This was the evaluation of Lin Yi by the students who saw this scene. Who would dare to slap someone in the face in front of the head of teaching? Who would dare to do it? But Lin Yi did it. And Wang Jifeng didn't say a word. Not only that, Lin Yi said that Tang Yin was his woman in front of Wang Jifeng. Since the founding of Songshan's first school, no one had ever dared to do that. Even the legendary head of the Big Four bullies wasn't as arrogant as Lin Yi, right? Tang Yun's face was a little red. She was a little angry, but there was also a trace of happiness in her heart. Lin Yi was calling her his woman in front of the dean? This crazy thing made Tang Yun, who had always been a good girl in school, suddenly feel a trace of rebellious joy. All right, Mr. Wang, you can continue. I think these guys are asking for a beating, don't you think so? Lin Yi said to Wang Jifeng after slapping Zhou Ruoming. It was as if the slap wasn't from him. Haha. Wang Jifeng laughed dryly. He wasn't in the mood to scold Zhou Ruoming anymore. He waved his hand and let them leave. Lin Yi also pulled Tang Yun towards the school building. Let go of me. Tang Yun came back to her senses after 2 steps. She quickly swung her arms, trying to break free from Lin Yi's hand. Lin Yi was afraid that she would run away, but now he wasn't afraid anymore. He let go of her hand. Why did you say that I'm your woman? Tang Yun's eyes widened as she looked at Lin Yi. What do you want me to do in the future? How embarrassing would that be? Ha! I just want you to see that there's nothing to be afraid of with Zhou Ruoming. Lin Yi didn't answer the question directly. I can feel your fear of him. So I'm using my actions to tell you that I can beat him up anytime I want, even in front of the dean. Haha, I'm not afraid of Zhou Ruoming at all. Ah, Tang Yun froze. She didn't think that Lin Yi would do this for this reason. She felt touched. Now that she thought about it, Zhou Ruoming didn't seem as scary as before. An evil man was pushed down from his pedestal by Lin Yi. An evil man who could be slapped in the face by Lin Yi at any time, but didn't dare complain. Was he still an evil man? Tang Yun didn't agree with Lin Yi's use of violence. But there was a saying that bad people needed to be beaten by bad people. But you can't say that in front of so many people. I'm a girl, not like you, shameless. Although Tang Yun was touched, she didn't want to change her words. Huh. Lin Yi didn't reply. Let's go, class is about to start. Okay. Tang Yun didn't refute. She didn't know why, but she didn't reject Lin Yi anymore. Even if Lin Yi said that, Tang Yun didn't feel any disgust. Right, yesterday, you helped me expel the drug from my body. How did you do it? Tang Yun didn't have time to ask, because she was in a rush yesterday. She remembered it today and quickly asked. That it's a type of Chinese massage. It's similar to acupuncture. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't explain the art of dragon mastery and energy. Tang Yun wouldn't understand even if he did. If that's the case, then Lin Yi, can you cure Xiaofen's illness? Tang Yun was thinking about this question yesterday. Although she didn't know where Lin Yi learned his medical skills from, it had been verified twice. It was effective. The first time was when Xiaofen's illness acted up, and the second time was when he detoxified her yesterday. This meant that Lin Yi was quite capable. So, Tang Yun thought that if that was the case, could Lin Yi cure Xiaofen's illness? It should be possible, but not now. Lin Yi didn't have any medicine to stimulate the nerves. He only had some that his old man used to strengthen his body. Lin Yi didn't bring it with him. Xiaofen's leg needed acupuncture and medicine to recover. Acupuncture alone wouldn't have much effect. Oh, Tang Yun thought that Lin Yi's medical skills weren't good enough to cure Xiaofen's illness. She nodded in disappointment. The bell rang. Lin Yi and Tang Yun quickened their pace. When they were about to reach class 9, Tang Yun suddenly quickened her pace. She probably wanted to increase the distance between her and Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled and didn't follow. He waited for Tang Yun to enter the classroom before he quickened his pace back to his own class. Boss, you were so cool just now. Kong Xiaobo turned around and gave Lin Yi a thumbs up the moment he sat down. What do you mean? Lin Yi was startled. Did this kid see something? I was in the corridor just now. I saw you slap Zhou Ruoming in front of Director Wang. Boss, you're amazing. Kong Xiaobo was impressed. No one else saw it, right? Lin Yi frowned. He didn't expect Kong Xiaobo to see it. No, it was just me. Kong Xiaobo nodded. Chapter 241. Are you sure you want half? It's about Xiaofen. Kong Xiaobo said. What, you've thought it through? Linny was surprised. He didn't expect Kong Xiaobo to think it through so quickly. That's not it. Kong Xiaobo shook his head in embarrassment. This kind of thing naturally has to be carefully considered. I want to get in touch with Xiaofan first. What I want to tell you is that I want to earn money for Xiaofan's treatment. That's not it. Xiaobo shook his head, a little embarrassed. Things like this have to be carefully thought. I want to talk to Fan first. What I want to tell you is that I want to earn money for Fan's treatment. That's not it. Kong Xiaobo shook his head in embarrassment. This kind of thing naturally has to be carefully considered. I want to get in touch with Xiaofan first. What I want to tell you is that I want to earn money for Xiaofan's treatment. You want to earn money for Xiaofan's treatment? Linny was startled as he looked at Kong Xiaobo in disbelief. Is this kid really that great? The environment Linny grew up in, and the training methods of his two mentors made him a cold person. He'd ignore things that didn't concern him. If it wasn't his or his friends' matters, Linny wouldn't care at all. Yeah, Kong Xiaobo nodded. Boss, do you know of any places to work? You're about to take the college entrance exam, and you're still going to work. Linny didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Kong Xiaobo's words. The college entrance exam isn't really much. Since I have money, I'll just spend it. Many universities are affiliated with each other. Kong Xiaobo sighed. Boss, with my results, it's impossible for me to get into a good university. It'll be hard for me to find a job after I graduate from a third-rate university. Linny nodded. Kong Xiaobo's words made sense, but they weren't completely correct. But that salary isn't even enough to pay for Xiaofan's treatment, let alone the affiliated school. Linny wasn't trying to attack Kong Xiaobo, but that was how the labor market was. A salary of 2,000 to 3,000 a month was already considered high. Kong Xiaobo was a little disappointed by Lin Yi's words. He had to admit that Linny was right. The money he earned from working was just a drop in the bucket. My grandfather is old-fashioned. If he had opened a pharmaceutical factory, I wouldn't be like this. My second grandpa's family has registered the patent for the prescription, so I can't even sell it now. Linny didn't say anything, but a plan was brewing in his mind. During the lunch break, Linny and Kong Xiaobo were having lunch in the school cafeteria. Linny received a call from Sun Jingyi again. Linny, have you thought it through? Can you help me? Sun Jingyi's voice sounded a little anxious. If it wasn't an emergency, she wouldn't be in such a hurry. Miss Sun, I think it's you who hasn't thought it through. Do you agree to my conditions? Asked Linny. Your conditions? Sun Jingyi suddenly remembered that the conditions Linny said in the morning were half of the other party's conditions. At that time, Sun Jingyi thought he was joking, so she didn't take it seriously. Now that she heard Linny still say this, she asked curiously, Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm honest. Linny said, This is the rule of the great thief. This is my ancestral teaching. If you can't accept it, then don't talk about it. I still have to eat. Wait, Linny, where are you? I'll treat you to a meal. Let's not talk about it. Sun Jingyi was afraid that Lin Yi would hang up the phone again, so she said quickly, Oh, then you wait for me at the snack street behind Songjiang First High School. I'm there. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't refuse the money that came to him. Well, I'm coming now. See you in 10 minutes. After Sun Jingyi finished, she simply hung up the phone. Bro, do you have something? Kong Xiaobo also heard Lin Yi's phone call, but he didn't understand what Lin Yi said. And you eat first. I'm going out to do something. After Lin Yi finished, he got up and walked out of the cafeteria. 10 minutes later, Lin Yi saw Sun Jingyi at the snack street. Sun Jingyi was driving a red Audi A4L. Lin Yi was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Sun Jingyi to have a car. She seemed to have taken a taxi to the bar that day. But thinking about it, who would drive to the bar? How would they drive a car when they were drunk? Lin Yi didn't wear his school uniform today. His school uniform was with Tang Yun. So when Sun Jingyi saw him here, she only thought that Lin Yi was eating nearby. She wouldn't have thought that he was a student of Songjiang First High School. Get in the car. Sun Jingyi waved to Lin Yi. Lin Yi opened the door of the passenger seat and sat in. Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi. Compared to the elegance at the bar that day, Sun Jingyi today was more capable and steady. She wore a white-collar business suit, which made her look more dignified. Where are we going to eat? Sun Jingyi also noticed Lin Yi's gaze, but she didn't care. Instead, she was a little proud. Little handsome, you like me? Why don't you help me? You're only 20 years old, Lin Yi said faintly. Do you think you can pretend to be a sister just by putting your hair up? Sun Jingyi almost exploded from Lin Yi's words. She almost got into a car accident. How did you know? You deliberately dressed up more mature for business. Lin Yi didn't answer directly. Lin Yi was proficient in traditional Chinese medicine. He could estimate a person's approximate age from details, such as a person's face and neck. But he couldn't tell this to Sun Jingyi. Okay, little handsome. But you have to admit that I'm still older than you. Sun Jingyi didn't want to talk about the previous topic with Lin Yi. Talking to this man, she would always be at a disadvantage. Sun Jingyi had to adjust her mentality. 2 years older than me. It's not considered old. A woman 3 years older can carry a golden brick. You're not even 3 years older. Lin Yi shook his head. Your age is very awkward. You're neither too old nor too young. It happens to be in the range that I'm not interested in. Sun Jingyi's eyes widened. Isn't this guy's words too irritating? You're not interested if you're not 3 years older or 2 years older. Tell me, what do you want to help me? Sun Jingyi clenched her teeth. If she didn't really have something to do with Lin Yi, she would have kicked him out of the car. Help you? It's very simple. I've already said the conditions. It's up to you to agree. Lin Yi adjusted himself to a comfortable position. Sun Jingyi's car should rarely have men sitting in it. The gap in the front row was not big. Do you know what the other party's boss put forward? Sun Jingyi was a little dumbfounded. What conditions? It must be more difficult for you to accept than your so-called high price, to invite me out of the mountain. I don't know his price. How do I know if what you give me is a high price? Asked Lin Yi. Then are you sure that you want to take half of the other party's conditions as a reward? Sun Jingyi suddenly thought of a brilliant plan. She blinked her sly eyes like a little fox. I'm sure. This is the rule set by my master. Lin Yi nodded and said seriously. Your master is also a great thief? Sun Jingyi was a little curious. What about your master? Chapter 242. Chapter 242. Missing something. Sun Jingyi curled her lips, not believing Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi's skills were decent, that much Sun Jingyi believed. Even the heir of the Iron Fist House of Wu had fallen at Lin Yi's hands. And that was a testament to how skilled Lin Yi was. But as skilled as he was, Sun Jingyi didn't believe that Lin Yi's uncle master was the world's best thief. If he was, then Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to survive in a small city like Songshan. Wasn't he a bit too poor for that? Just how rich would the world's best thief have to be? His uncle master was a thief, but his master wasn't. What kind of weird sect was that? So Sun Jingyi took Lin Yi's words as a bluff. All right. If you're sure that you're willing to take half of the price, then I'll agree. Sun Jingyi said. But you can't go back on your word. Lin Yi frowned as he looked at the weird expression on Jingyi's face. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. Was there something wrong with this? But when he thought about it, there didn't seem to be anything wrong. Was the price the other party was offering really low? But that didn't seem possible. If the price wasn't high, why would Sun Jingyi come all the way here to look for him? Why would she offer him a high price? Lin Yi had a feeling that something was wrong here. But he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Hey, are you going to agree or not? Jingyi was starting to panic. Little handsome, you're younger than me, but you're a man. A man's words are like water that's been spilled. And a man's words are like spilled water. A gentleman's word is a promise. All right, I won't go back on my word. I'll take half of what the other party offers. Lin Yi felt a little helpless. He was indeed the one who said it. If he went back on his words, it wouldn't be right. All right, remember what you said. Sun Jingyi was a little excited. Lin Yi actually agreed. Let's go eat first. We'll talk while eating. I'll bring you to a good place. Looking at the incomparably excited Sun Jingyi, Lin Yi's heart sank. He increasingly felt that there was definitely a problem here. He didn't know what he had overlooked. However, since he couldn't figure it out, Lin Yi didn't bother thinking about it. At most, he would just waste this time. Stealing a piece of information wasn't a difficult task. Sun Jingyi's so-called good place turned out to be a food stall on the street, which made Lin Yi a little speechless. He thought that Sun Jingyi would invite him to some high-class hotel or something. Sun Jingyi parked the car in the free parking space on the side. In fact, it was on the roadside without a no parking sign. She got off the car with Lin Yi. "It's this place. The authentic spicy skewers are very delicious." Lin Yi was a little speechless, but he really liked to eat this thing. "Boss, give me a small basin." Sun Jingyi asked for a small basin from the boss of the spicy skewers with ease. Then, she began to pick out the skewers from the cart. She said to Lin Yi while she was picking, "What do you like to eat? Take it yourself. After eating, we'll count the number of sticks together." Lin Yi smiled and began to fill the small basin with spicy skewers with Sun Jingyi. After a while, the basin was filled with spicy skewers. The two of them found an empty table and sat down. Sun Jingyi began to add seasoning to the spicy skewers. "Take the money, take the money." As soon as Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi sat down, several burly men came over and scolded the boss of the spicy skewers. "Brother Scar, didn't you just take the money a few days ago?" When the boss of the spicy skewers saw these people, his face suddenly changed, and he ran over with a smile. "A few days ago? It was Brother Neo's mother's birthday a few days ago. You took the money as a gift. Today's is the protection fee." One of the men with a scar in a vest said impatiently. "This." The boss's expression froze. Although he knew that this guy might be lying, he had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. This Scarface man was a gangster in this area, and he specialized in collecting protection fees from the food street. "Hurry up, don't waste time. Do you want to quit? Let us brothers eat and drink here every day," the Scarface man threatened. As he said that, he casually picked up a spicy skewer from Lin Yi's table and put it into his mouth. Then, he threw the signature on Lin Yi's table. "Hey, don't throw your food here. You'll pay for it later." Lin Yi frowned and said to the Scarface man. The Scarface man was stunned. He didn't expect that this customer would dare to talk to him like this. He turned his head and was about to scold him. Suddenly, he saw Sun Jingyi with Lin Yi. He suddenly widened his eyes, and a lewd smile appeared on his face. "Since that's the case, I'll treat you. Let's eat together. Brothers, bring the chairs over." After the Scarface man finished speaking, he sat on a chair next to Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi. He looked at Sun Jingyi and said, "Sister, I'll treat you. You can eat as much as you want. Let's drink some wine." Sun Jingyi frowned slightly. She didn't expect Lin Yi to cause so much trouble. Originally, these people came to collect protection fees. After collecting, they would leave. Even if they ate a spicy skewer, the boss would know in his heart. He definitely wouldn't count the bill. However, Lin Yi's words attracted such a disaster. "Did I allow you to sit here? Do I know you?" When Lin Yi saw this guy flirting with Sun Jingyi, he was immediately unwilling. No matter what, Sun Jingyi was also an employer who was going to give him money. "You are flirting with her in front of me?" What's more, although Lin Yi didn't want to be a busybody, this matter wasn't a busybody. This Scarface man sat here because of his words. Of course, Lin Yi wouldn't spoil him. "Who the fuck are you?" The Scarface man turned his head and wanted to push Lin Yi. He had long seen that this kid was a hindrance. He was looking for a reason to make him give up his seat, and this reason came himself. "Pa!" The answer to the Scarfaced man was a loud slap in the face. Lin Yi just beat Zhou Ruoming in the morning. He didn't enjoy it very much. With Wang Jifeng around, he couldn't beat Zhou Ruoming too seriously in public. But now he had no scruples. So this slap made half of the Scarface man's face like a steamed bun, and it instantly swelled up. "I hate it when people scold my mother." Lin Yi didn't have a mother since he was a child, so it was a taboo for others to mention his mother. You dare to hit me?" The Scarfaced man looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He could be said to be the master of this food street. Don't talk about being beaten. No one would even speak loudly. So Lin Yi's slap stunned the Scarface man. "Get lost." Lin Yi looked at the Scarface man with disdain. He looked down on people like the Scarface man. Not only did he collect protection fees, but he also came out to flirt with women. Chapter 243. A strange condition, Bam. Sun Jingyi shrieked subconsciously. She'd brought Lin Yi here to discuss some serious business, but she hadn't expected to run into a bunch of hooligans. If Lin Yi was injured and had his head smashed open, who would help her steal the information? However, it was Scarface who had his head smashed open. The beer bottle had landed in Lin Yi's hands, but there was only half of it left. The other half had exploded on Scarface's head. Scarface was clearly a ruthless person. He didn't cry out even after being hit on the head by Lin Yi. Instead, it made him even more ruthless. He stood up coldly and glared at Lin Yi. Brother, what kind of gang do you hang out with? Don't you know that the North Market is under Scarface's protection? Did you come here to cause trouble? Scram. Lin Yi said the same word, but this time he did something else. He threw the skewer that Scarface had finished eating out of the table, stabbing it into the side of his face that didn't have a scar on it. It pierced a hole through the skin of Scarface's face. Ouch! Scarface howled in pain. The nerves in his face were quite dense, and having a hole in his cheek was naturally painful. He hadn't cried out when the beer bottle hit him, but this time, he couldn't hold it in any longer. It was too painful. Scarface was a little frightened. The bamboo skewer was light, and Lin Yi had casually thrown it, and it had stabbed into his cheek. This wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Scarface was a little manly though. He only cried out when the skewer stabbed into his cheek, but didn't cry out afterward. Gritting his teeth, he pulled the skewer out and looked at Lin Yi. Brother, I admit that I'm not as skilled as you, but you have to think of a way out. Don't push people too far. Who's your brother? I'm an orphan. Keep this up and I'll keep stabbing you. Lin Yi said casually, not even raising his head. He was looking down on Scarface. It's a small world. Let's wait and see. Scarface coldly snorted and left behind some ruthless words. If you have the guts, then wait here for me. If you want to call someone, then hurry up. I can't wait. I still have things to do after eating. If you don't come, then I'll leave. Lin Yi wasn't provoked at all. Scarface's provocation didn't work on him. Scarface's expression changed. He waved at the remaining 3 brothers and quickly left the stall. Brother Scarface, why don't you let us brothers go up? One of Scarface's lackeys called Purple Hair asked. The other party is a tough opponent. He might be a martial artist. You guys will be at a disadvantage if you go up. Scarface was not stupid. Someone who can throw a bamboo skewer into my face is definitely not an ordinary person. When Scarface said this, Purple Hair and the others all nodded in agreement. That's right, then what should we do? Should he just accept this loss like that? How are we going to survive in the food street in the future? Of course we can't just let it go like that. We'll go back and get Guang Bro to help us. Scarface said. Yes, get Guang Bro and get Guang Bro to kill him. Purple Hair said excitedly. We'll go get Guang Bro right now. Sun Jingyi was shocked when she heard Lin Yi call himself an orphan. She didn't think that Lin Yi was an orphan. Of course, she didn't think that Lin Yi was joking. No one would joke about their background like that. Of course, this wasn't the only thing that shocked Sun Jingyi. Lin Yi's skills just now. She knew that Lin Yi was very fast. To be able to steal Wu Chintian's wallet, he had to be fast. But Lin Yi was also this fast when it came to fighting. She didn't even see how the bottle in Scarface's hand got into Lin Yi's hand before Scarface's head exploded. And that bamboo skewer could be used as a dart? What kind of person was this? She lowered her head and was about to ask Lin Yi if he knew Kung Fu when she saw that Lin Yi had already buried his head in a bowl of spicy skewers. Sun Jingyi was speechless. He had just beaten someone up. It was so bloody. And now he was eating as if nothing had happened. Oh, right, let's talk about the information you asked me to steal. Lin Yi slowed down after eating more than 20 spicy skewers and said to Sun Jingyi. The other party is a trading company like us. We have similar projects, office supplies and computers. Sun Jingyi explained when she heard Lin Yi's question. But one of our managers gave their supervisor a certain amount of rebates when negotiating with a big company. We don't know how this happened. But someone from the other company filmed it, and now they're using it to threaten our company. Oh, is that so? Doesn't their company do things like this? Lin Yi asked as he took out another 2 spicy skewers. It's not a secret in the industry. If you want to get business, how can you not give the supervisor some benefits? They're doing it too, but we were filmed, Sun Jingyi said helplessly. What's the harm in exposing it? Lenny asked. We might be punished by the related departments, and of course, we'll lose that customer. He's a big customer of our company. Every year, he buys tens of millions of RMB worth of computers and related office equipment from us. If this is exposed, not only will he lose his position as a supervisor, he might even be held accountable by the company. Sun Jingyi said. The most important thing is which company would dare to work with us in the future. We might be exposed for taking rebates. Who would want to work with this kind of unsafe company? I'm afraid we'll have to close down. It's that serious. Lenny didn't know much about business, but after listening to Sun Jingyi's explanation, he understood the gist of it. Then what did the other party's company ask for? If they only wanted to attack you, as a competitor, they would have released the video already. They wouldn't have waited until you asked me to steal it. That's right. Jingyi nodded. It's not good for us to announce it, but it's not good for them either. After all, it's not like we're the only two trading companies in Songshan. There's a lot of them. It's not like we're the only ones in Songshan. It's not like we'll be the ones losing our customers. Tell me their conditions. Lenny was interested in this. Their condition is, the boss of that company wants me to be his mistress. Sun Jingyi said. Huh. Pfft. Lenny spat out half a mouthful of spicy skewer. Ahem, what did you say? Their condition is for you to be his mistress? Chapter 244. What was he doing out here? Half of a lover. Lenny was speechless. There was a half of a lover? Yeah, we'll announce to the public that we're a couple, but in reality, I won't fulfill the obligations of a couple. Sun Jingyi nodded. From now on, you'll appear in front of my friends as my boyfriend. Lenny finally realized where he'd fallen into the trap. This trap was as big as it could get. Not only did he have to steal information for Sun Jingyi for free, he even had to pretend to be her boyfriend for free. Wasn't this too much of a deal? But he'd set the rules and payments. Who could he blame? No wonder he'd felt that something was off. Something was definitely off. You win. Lenny didn't want to go back on his words. He wasn't that shameless, and he had to keep his word. But the boss did all this just to make you his lover? That's right, I don't know. You can ask him if you don't believe me. Everyone in the industry knows that he has feelings for me. Sun Jingyi said. Isn't that Wu Qintian chasing after you? Why don't you ask him for help? Lenny asked. That Wu Qintian's nickname was Iron Fist Wu, and he was very skilled in martial arts. Stealing information shouldn't be a problem. I don't want to have too much to do with him. I don't have any feelings for him. Sun Jingyi shook her head. Are you going back on your word? Nope, where's the information? I'll get it for you. Lenny saw that Sun Jingyi didn't want to talk about Wu Qintian, so he didn't ask. The information is at his lodging. We'll do it tonight. Sun Jingyi said. All right, tonight it is then. Lenny didn't really mind. I won't take half of the lover's payment. That won't do. Sun Jingyi refused flatly, shaking her head. I've told you many times before that you're going to take half of the other party's offer. You're very sure of it, and now you're going back on your word? I can't even take it. Lenny smiled bitterly. No, absolutely not. Sun Jingyi said. You help me, I pay you, it's only right and proper. All right. Lenny was a little helpless, but seeing that Sun Jingyi was so adamant, there was nothing he could do. After all, Lenny did agree to it. As the two of them were talking, they saw a group of gangsters running over. Scarface was among them. As he ran, he said to one of them, Brother Guang, it's him. It's this kid. He stopped me from collecting protection fees, and even hit me. It had to be said that this Scarface's imagination was quite rich. He turned the ugly matter of him teasing Sun Jingyi into Lin, obstructing him from collecting protection fees, and tricking his boss to come here to settle the matter. When the stall owner saw who it was, his face suddenly changed. He quickly reminded Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi, Little brother, you should run quickly. Brother Scarface called his boss over. He must be here to teach you a lesson. I haven't finished eating yet. If they want to come, let them come. Lenny didn't care at all. He was still eating the spicy skewers slowly. AI. The owner of the spicy skewers sighed. Anyway, he had done his best. Since this person didn't listen, there was nothing he could do. He hoped that when Brother Guang came, he wouldn't implicate him. Hey, they have a lot of people. Do you have the confidence to settle it? Although Sun Jingyi felt that Lin Yi's skills were very good, after all, 2 fists couldn't fight 4 hands. With so many people coming to find trouble, could Lin Yi solve it? Are there a lot of people? Lin Yi put down the bamboo skewer in his hand. When he looked up, he was delighted. It was actually an acquaintance. And this acquaintance was clamoring at the moment. Who dares to cause trouble in the North District? Do you have no respect for my brother Guang's reputation? Scarface's boss walked over arrogantly and shouted into the spicy skewer's stall. Ha, we meet again. Lin Yi smiled faintly and looked at Brother Guang. People say that it takes 100 days to recover from a serious injury. Instead of lying down at home, you ran out here to become a cripple? When Brother Guang saw Lin Yi, his face suddenly changed. This Brother Guang was naturally the head of the North District's gangsters, Zhou Guang. He never thought that he would meet the person he met in the hospital a few days ago here again. In the hospital, Lin Yi's ruthlessness was still fresh in Zhou Guang's memory. This kid was simply a violent maniac. When he abused people, he didn't even blink. He treated his wrist as a toy, pulling and pulling it several times. At that moment, Zhou Guang's face was very ugly. Although he had a lot of underlings, he didn't dare to touch Lin Yi. He was actually very timid. He was afraid that once his underlings weren't a match for Lin Yi, his ending today would definitely be worse than the previous 2 days. Last time he broke his wrist. This time, he might break his leg. Huh. It's this brother. Zhou Guang laughed. He didn't dare to provoke Lin Yi for the time being, but he didn't want to lose face either. He could only pretend to be familiar with Lin Yi. It's really a case of water rushing against the temple of the Dragon King. Family doesn't recognize family anymore. Scar. This brother definitely wouldn't stop you from collecting protection fees for no reason. Tell me the truth. What's going on? Actually, how could Zhou Guang not know that Scarface was using this as a pretext? Scarface's underlings wouldn't be so loyal to Scarface. Zhou Guang had heard about what happened before. As for why he still stood up for Scarface after knowing the situation, it was because Scarface was his underling. When his underling was bullied, he naturally had to stand up for him as the big brother. On the other hand, it was also because he was taught a lesson by Lin Yi over the weekend and didn't dare to fight back. His heart was depressed, so he wanted to teach others a lesson to vent his anger. In the end, he met Lin Yi here. Zhou Guang secretly cursed his bad luck. Scarface was stunned. He didn't expect his boss to change his attitude the moment he came. He immediately realized that things weren't simple. He was the boss of the market nearby, so he naturally wasn't stupid. Brother Guang came to stand up for him, but his attitude towards Lin Yi was very good. This gave Scarface a bad feeling. Could it be that this person was really a ruthless person? Even the boss had to be respectful to him? I'm sorry, Brother Guang. I caused trouble. I just said a few words to this big brother's woman. Scarface didn't quibble. He knew that Brother Guang was going to punish him at this time. Pa. Zhou Guang slapped him. Who asked you to be so cocky? Apologize now. I'm sorry. Scarface quickly apologized to Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi. Alright, stop acting. I don't have time to watch you act. Lin Yi waved his hand impatiently. Boss Bill. Chapter 245. Chapter 245. You have too many troubles. Do I look like someone like him? Lin Yi pointed at Scarface, a little annoyed. He'd always had to pay for his meals, even if he didn't have to pay for them. He'd never dashed before. Of course not, bro. The owner's face froze. He hadn't expected his flattery to backfire. The guy didn't lack money at all, so he didn't have to pay. Alright, I'll calculate how much it is. The owner didn't bother counting, and just weighed the skewers on the table. There were about 100 of them. Let's make it 100, and I'll take 50 instead. Pay up. Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi. Sun Jingyi was a little taken aback. She'd thought that Lin Yi was going to treat them, but in the end, He was asking her to pay? The owner didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So you're not the one paying? Then why are you asking your friend to spend more? Isn't this free of charge good enough? Sun Jingyi took out her wallet and handed a 50 kwai bill to the owner. She glared at Lin Yi before leaving the food stall with him. Scarface secretly cursed. This gigolo came out to be pretentious and spend a woman's money. He was really something. However, he only thought about it in his heart. How could he dare to offend someone that even his boss, Zhou Ruoguang, didn't dare to offend? After Lin Yi left, Zhou Ruoguang looked at Scarface with a dark expression. It's all your fault. Damn it, I almost ended up in the hospital again. What's wrong? Scarface started. Not only did his brother not dare offend Lin Yi, he was actually scared of Lin Yi? Guang bro, is that kid strong? Strong? Look at how my hands were broken. Zhou Ruoguang shook his 2 hands wrapped in gauze. He broke them. Do you think you can afford to piss off a lunatic like that? He's ridiculously strong. And no matter how many people there are, there's still no match for him. So powerful? Scarface was stunned. Could this be the legendary martial arts master? Hurry up and go back. Don't embarrass yourself here. Zhou Ruoguang was a little annoyed. Look carefully next time. Don't provoke such a tough guy. Yes, brother Guang. Scarface was also very depressed. How would I know that this kid was so powerful? If I had known earlier, why would I have provoked him? Am I not sick? Sigh, what a femme fatale. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have flirted with Sun Jingyi, and I wouldn't have gotten myself into so much trouble. After getting in the car, Sun Jingyi glared at Lin Yi with some reproach. You didn't pay the bill, and the boss waived the bill. Are you still unwilling? Those peddlers don't make much money. Lin Yi said, $50 is more or less the cost. Sun Jingyi paused. She didn't think that much before. But now that she heard Lin Yi's words, it was true. If they had money, why would they work in a food stall under the hot sun? This made Sun Jingyi see Lin Yi in a new light. In actuality, Lin Yi only thought of Tang Yun's family and didn't want to take advantage of the spicy skewer owner. As for whether or not Scarface would continue to collect protection fees from him, that wasn't something Lin Yi could control. Everyone had their own lives, and Lin Yi couldn't just stick his nose into it. Where are you going, honey? Sun Jingyi backed out of the car and looked at Lin Yi gently. Honey. Lin Yi paused. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you. You are my lover now. Although it's only half, I can still call you that. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi with a smile that wasn't a smile. Why? Is it embarrassing for you to be in a relationship with a younger brother? Lin Yi was speechless. This girl seemed to be quite open-minded, but it didn't seem to be the case. Otherwise, she wouldn't have rejected the company's boss. However, why did she look for him? Did she think that he was easy to bully? Or did she think that he wouldn't do anything to her? Let me tell you, you are playing with fire here. What if one day, I become real? Lin Yi warned Sun Jingyi. Okay, sister also wants to see if we can develop feelings after a long time. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi with a smile. It seemed that she didn't take Lin Yi's words seriously at all. Send me to the previous place. Lin Yi rolled his eyes and ignored her. Songshan First High School? Sun Jingyi was a bit strange. Why are you still going to the previous place? Why are you asking so much? Lin Yi frowned. Do you not want me to help you tonight? Tisk, I'm already your lover. You have already received the payment. If you don't want to help me, then don't help me. Sun Jingyi shrugged indifferently. Pick me up there at night. After this, we don't know each other anymore. Lin Yi didn't want to have too much to do with Sun Jingyi. Although this woman was beautiful and had the kind of mature temperament that Tang Yin, Ming Yao, and Yushu didn't have, Lin Yi's intuition told him that this woman was very troublesome. If he got involved with her, he would definitely be in trouble in the future. Today, she made him become a great thief. Tomorrow would he kill people and rob them? Thinking about it, it was very possible. From that Wu Chintian, he could infer that Sun Jingyi's family was definitely not simple. Otherwise, she wouldn't be friends with the Iron Fist Wu family. Although he didn't know why Sun Jingyi didn't use the power of her family to solve the problem in front of her. But this kind of trouble caused by a princess of a noble family was definitely troublesome. Lin Yi didn't want to solve her problems professionally. Hey, how can you be like this? Don't want to take responsibility? Sun Jingyi listened to Lin Yi and looked at Lin Yi with a hidden bitterness in her eyes. Lover, not wife yet, so you can break up at any time. Lin Yi said faintly. I'm telling you now, you are dumped by me. In the future you won't be. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. She was a great beauty. She was in front of him, and he wasn't moved? At least there was a line of people chasing after her. Even if she didn't really become his lover, a fake lover could satisfy his vanity. With a beauty by his side, he would always be envied by others. Are you really not interested in my sister? Sun Jingyi couldn't help but ask. Yes, Lin Yi said straightforwardly. Sun Jingyi thought that Lin Yi would definitely say no, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to say yes. This surprised her a little, and she was a little confused. Then why are you still dumping me? Chapter 246. Chapter 246. The perfect candidate. This Sun Jingyi, on the other hand, seemed to be even more troublesome than Ling Shan. At the very least, Ling Shan was more straightforward, while Sun Jingyi was too much of a liar. Sun Jingyi exploded at Lin Yi's words. There were so many people lining up to help her out, like Wu Qintian, who she'd ignored before coming to Lin Yi. And now he was calling her troublesome? Fine, I don't care. I'll come to you if I need anything in the future. Sun Jingyi said shamelessly. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Go find him if you want to. It'd depend on my mood whether I came or not. He told Sun Jingyi to drop him off at the food street behind the school, and waited for Sun Jingyi's car to leave before Lin Yi turned back to school. Pinliang, accompanied by his lawyer, met Heibao Bro at the designated hospital in Songshan's detention center. Heibao Bro. Pinliang couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the bandages all over Heibao Bro's body. Heibao smiled bitterly, not expecting to be crippled as a golden-class late-phase peak. His meridians were all severed, and he was lying on a hospital bed in a state worse than death. Heibao wasn't in the detention center right now, so there were no police officers in the room other than the lawyer. Fabai could handle things like this, and it wasn't hard for him to meet Heibao alone. Master Zhong, you're here. Heibao looked at Pinliang, a trace of sadness on his face. I underestimated my enemy. I didn't expect that Lin Yi to be this strong. He's the same as me, a golden-class late-phase peak. What? He's a golden-class late-phase peak? Fabai paused, looking at Heibao in disbelief. Heibao, are you telling the truth? Boss, why would I lie to you about something like this? Heibao smiled bitterly. So boss, young Master Zhong, I advise you not to touch Lin Yi before you have absolute certainty. You are not his match. Although Heibao's words weren't very pleasant, they were still harsh to the ear. Fabai and Pinliang understood this principle. They were no match for Lin Yi. On the other hand, Fabai didn't care much. Lin Yi didn't have much of a relationship with him, so he didn't care if he attacked Lin Yi or not. Pinliang's expression, however, changed drastically. He saw Lin Yi as an opponent that he had to eliminate in this life. Although Zhou Ruoming was the one who had humiliated him that night, it was Lin Yi who had caused it. Pinliang clenched his fists at the memory. Heibao Bro, you have no idea how much humiliation I went through that day. It wasn't any worse than yours. Huh? Master Zhong, do you really want to get rid of Lin Yi? Heibao Bro smiled suddenly, looking at Pinliang strangely. Of course I do. Heibao Bro, do you have any good ideas? Pinliang knew that Heibao Bro had a plan when he saw his smile. Yes, but... Heibao Bro looked at the people in the room, hesitating. You can leave first. Zhong Fabai waved his hand at the lawyer. The lawyer was the only outsider here. Although he had always been working for Zhong Fabai, what Heibao wanted to say must be extremely secretive. So the fewer people who knew, the better. Yes, boss. The lawyer naturally didn't say much. He worked for Fabai, and he knew very well that he didn't listen to things he shouldn't hear, and he didn't ask about things he shouldn't know. After the lawyer left the room, Heibao's face turned serious. Master Zhong, the only way to get revenge on Lin Yi is to increase your strength. Increase your strength beyond the peak of the late phase of the golden class. That's the only way to kill him. Otherwise, Golden class late phase peak isn't something that can be taken down by a group of people. If a group of normal gangsters were to gang up on him, they would just be asking for death. Increase my strength? Pinliang blinked. Hey Bao bro, you're saying that I can increase my strength to the peak late phase golden class, or even higher? That's right. Hey Bao nodded. But if you gain something, you have to lose something. Once you practice our sex arts, you can't touch women anymore. Or you'll lose your life. Ah, I can't touch women anymore? Pinliang paused. Fuck, I'm killing Lin Yi because he's a stumbling block in my pursuit of Meng Yao. What's the point of killing Lin Yi if I can't even touch a woman? Pinliang thought. Yes, He Bao said. Back then, I couldn't stand the ascetic life of training, and that's why I ran away from my sect. I didn't make much of a difference, and what I brought out was just a short-term art to increase a person's strength, allowing a normal person to quickly reach the late phase golden class. I, on the other hand, had some martial arts foundation, so I reached the peak late phase golden class. If you're already a peak late phase golden class, you can use this art to get to the early phase, or even the mid phase. This art can only be used under special circumstances, and it only lasts for a month or two. After that, you'll drop back to your previous strength and lose 5 years of your lifespan. It's useless unless it's a critical moment. Master Zhong, even if you reach the peak late phase golden class like me, you still won't be able to kill Lin Yi. Ah, but you want me to not touch women. Pinliang felt that if he couldn't touch women, what was the point of his life? After practicing the art that He Bao bro told him about, killing Lin Yi would be easy, but his life would be in danger. Wasn't that too dangerous? Master Zhong, that's all I have to say. I've received a huge favor from my boss back then, so I'm telling you this before I go to jail. I can't interfere with your decision. He Bao said. If you've thought it through, go to Spring Star Mountain. Tell him that I, He Bao, introduced him to my big senior brother, who's now the sect master. I'm just an abandoned disciple, but he'll give me face. Spring Star Mountain? What kind of mountain is that? Pinliang paused. Geography wasn't his forte, but he'd never heard of this mountain, let alone any sects on it. I'll draw a detailed map for you, He Bao said. Of course, if you have someone you can trust, you can ask him to go in your place. When he returns, he'll be able to help you kill Lin Yi and avenge me. I'm only saying this because I hope that you can avenge me, Master Zhong. Someone I can trust? Pinliang frowned as he thought of someone. That's right, he could ask him to go. Pinliang suddenly thought of Zhang Naipeo. Chapter 247. Learning in the mountains. Pinliang raised his head to look at Fabai, and their eyes met. Fabai seemed to have thought of someone as well. Pinliang, you want Zhang Naipeo to go? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I've decided to go talk to him. Pinliang didn't hide it. Naipeo's been with me for years, and I know him. We helped his family get through this, so it shouldn't be a problem if I let him go. Alright, go talk to him then. Fabai was moved as well. If his son could have a master at the peak of the late phase of the golden class, then the Zhong family wouldn't have to rely on the Jin family to survive in Songshan City. He wouldn't have to be restricted by his brother-in-law. At that time, the Zhong family would have a master, and they would have the right to speak in the upper class. Zhong Fabai suddenly had expectations. Thinking of this, Fabai thought that his son had done a smart thing, which was to win over the hearts of his subordinates and cultivate an absolute confidant. If He Bao was Fabai's confidant, then Zhang Naipeo was Pinliang's confidant. He Bao wouldn't have been able to share so many secrets with him if he wasn't his confidant. After getting the map of Springstar Mountain, Fabai sent Pinliang back to school, leaving the lawyer to figure out how to lighten He Bao's punishment. He Bao had injured a police officer, and then escaped. His punishment wouldn't be light either. Pinliang had a depressed look on his face on the way to He Bao bro, but his face was filled with joy and excitement on the way back to school. As long as he followed He Bao bro's advice, Naipeo would be able to learn martial arts in the mountains, and he wouldn't have to be afraid of Lin Yi anymore. He'd be able to kill Lin Yi in one hit. Ha ha ha, what a great feeling that would be. Just thinking about it made him excited. Helping Naipeo's family was the best thing he'd ever done. Pinliang didn't want to help Naipeo. He was afraid that he wouldn't get anything out of it. But now it was all worth it. Pinliang called Naipeo outside the classroom as soon as he got back to school. Naipeo, come with me. I need to talk to you. Liang bro. Naipeo was getting more and more respectful towards Pinliang these days. Not only did Pinliang give his family 700,000, but he'd also give his father another 300,000 to restart his business. Naipeo was very grateful. His family would have been done for him if it weren't for Pinliang. His father would have been forced to commit suicide, and his brother would have been forced to sell his kidney. How would he and his mother survive? Pinliang, on the other hand, had helped them change everything, and so Naipeo thanked his boss from the bottom of his heart. He felt like he hadn't followed Pinliang for nothing. He quickly followed Pinliang out of the classroom. Liang bro, what's up? Pow Naipeo, Pinliang said. Pow pow. Pinliang Naipeo, Pinliang Liang. Poff of pa pow with, Pinliang said. Pow Pinliang the first class, the afternoon at. Of Pinliang, go of the yin of lin of in of and pin. Pin to the school ching. Pinliang frowned when he saw that someone was there. But Naipeo understood immediately. Clear the place, clear the place. Everyone get out. Liang bro needs to use the washroom. These people were gangsters in the school, but they were a far cry from the big four. Pinliang might have been beaten up a couple of times by Lin Yi, and wasn't as popular as he used to be, but these gangsters still didn't dare mess with him. They all smiled and backed out of the washroom when they saw Pinliang. Liang bro, is there something you need to talk to me about? Naipeo wasn't an idiot. Pinliang wouldn't ask him to go to the washroom with him for no reason. Pow, you've been with me for a long time. There's something I need your opinion on. Pinliang said after some hesitation. What's the matter, Liang bro? Just say it, why do you need my opinion? Your opinion is my opinion. Naipeo said straightforwardly. All right. Pinliang nodded as he took out a pack of cigarettes, giving one to Naipeo before putting one in his mouth. I didn't make you my brother for nothing, but I still need to talk to you about this. It's a big deal after all. Go ahead, Liang bro. Naipeo took out his lighter and lit up the cigarette for Pinliang before lighting his own. Pow, here's a chance for you to become a willing master. Are you willing? Pinliang said in a low voice. Become a willing master? Naipeo blinked. You're not joking, are you, Liang bro? Do I look like I'm joking? Pinliang said. Pow, you know Heibao bro, right? You saw the news about him escaping from the police, right? His strength increased all of a sudden, and he was able to escape even when surrounded by the police. Do you know why? Could it be that Heibao bro is a willing master? Naipeo said subconsciously. That's right. There's a secret art in his sect that can increase strength quickly, but it's flawed. There's a time limit, and you'd have to pay the price of your lifespan. It's not very good. Pinliang said. Liang bro, you're asking me to learn this secret art? Naipeo misunderstood Pinliang's word. He thought that he was asking him to learn the art. It's just a few years of lifespan, no problem. Liang bro, if it weren't for you, my dad and brother would have been done for. And I wouldn't even be able to live. Pow, you misunderstand. I'm not asking you to learn this flawed art. I'm asking you to go up the mountain and learn martial arts. Join Heibao bro's sect, and become a true willing master. Pinliang said with a wave of his hand. But it'll be a tough process. According to Heibao bro, it'll be like a monk, and you won't be able to get close to women. If you're willing, Heibao bro can introduce you to him. Learn martial arts. Naipeo didn't quite understand, but he agreed without hesitation. Liang bro, if you want me to learn martial arts, then I'll do it. What's so great about being an ascetic? The only thing I, Zhang Naipeo, want in this life is to repay the kindness you've done for my family, Liang bro. As long as you give me that chance, I'll die even if you want me to, let alone be an ascetic. Chapter 248. Mingyao was pissed. She was pissed. Very pissed. Wasn't this Lin Yi way too good at causing trouble? Holding Tang Yun's hand, and announcing that she was his woman in school? Did he even put her the miss in his eyes? Didn't he know that he was her follower and shield? If Tang Yun was his woman, then what was she? How was she supposed to use him as a shield? She couldn't just tell people that she was his concubine, could she? Are you jealous, Yao Yao? Why else would you be so angry? Yushu waved her hand in front of Ming Yao's eyes. Me? Jealous? I'm angry that he's not a good follower. He's supposed to be my shield, but he's hitting on girls. How is he supposed to be my shield now? Ming Yao naturally didn't think that she was being jealous. Jealous of Lin Yi. How was that possible? Oh, it's fine, you can say that you're his concubine. Yushu said. Concubine? Shu, you want me to be his concubine? Ming Yao's eyes widened in anger. Was she trying to comfort her or piss her off? What's wrong with being a concubine? I've always thought that I'd be someone's concubine in the future. And you're the main wife, and I'm the concubine. Now, you're the concubine number 1. And I'm the concubine number 2. There's not much of a difference. Yushu said nonchalantly. Shu, I really don't know what to say to you. What's going on in that head of yours? Is being someone's concubine fun? Ming Yao was speechless. Her best friend's train of thought wasn't normal. She shouldn't talk to her when she was angry, or she'd get angrier and angrier until she died. Oh, it's pretty fun. Yushu flipped through the English book in front of her board. Yao Yao, there's a test in the afternoon. I'm going to study first. Oh. Ming Yao only remembered that there was an English test after Yushu's reminder. She had no choice but to take out her book, but she'd made up her mind to talk to Lin Yi. If he kept this up, she'd cut his salary. Ming Yao realized, tragically, that the only thing she could threaten Lin Yi with was his pay. There didn't seem to be anything else that could restrain him. After school, Ming Yao received a text that made her even angrier. Lin Yi texted her, saying that he had something to do tonight, and would be home later. This pissed Ming Yao off. Shu, look at this Lin Yi guy. He's coming back a little late at night. Do you think he went on a date with Tang Yun? It should be. Yao Yao sis. Yushu wanted to see the world in chaos. Ming Yao gritted her teeth as she replied to Lin Yi. If you dare come back late, I'll deduct a month's salary from you. Lin Yi looked at the message in his hand and felt a headache coming on. A month's salary would be deducted for one night out? Isn't this a little too ridiculous? Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he dialed Ming Yao's number. What's up? Ming Yao coldly picked up the phone. Miss, I really have something to do tonight. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on with Ming Yao. What is it? A date with Tang Yun? Ming Yao retorted. Lin Yi, can you mind your image? You're my shield. Even if you want to chase girls, can't you do it in private? You've caused a storm in the city. Everyone knows about you and Tang Yun. How can I use you as a shield? Lin Yi froze for a moment before he realized that the miss was angry because of this. No wonder she was so angry. Yao Yao, I'm not going on a date tonight. I'm going to help a friend. Lin Yi explained. What friend? What kind of help? Ming Yao asked. It's that Sun Jingyi that I met at the bar the other day. She asked me to do something for her. She wants to pay me. Lin Yi purposely added the word pay to prevent Ming Yao from thinking that he was flirting with other girls. I don't care if you pay me or not, as long as they don't come looking for you. Ming Yao didn't want Lin Yi to go looking for Sun Jingyi, but she couldn't find a reason to stop him. She didn't know why she was angry. Maybe it was because she was afraid that those girls would come looking for her and affect her plan? And that must be it. As long as he didn't bring those girls to school, he could do whatever he wanted. Ming Yao hung up the phone after she finished talking. Lin Yi shook his head. Did she let him go or not? Was his salary still going to be deducted? Lin Yi went to the food street behind the school and bumped into Tang Yun. Tang Yun was helping her mother after school. There was Kang Xiaobo and Lu Xinwen at the hospital. Tang Yun didn't need her help. Tang Yun jumped when she saw Lin Yi following her. She was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. However, there was a hint of joy in her heart. What happened today had spread throughout the school. But for some reason, Tang Yun wasn't as angry as she was when the love letter incident happened. Last time was a rumor, but this time it was a fact. Tang Yun thought that it was probably like that. But was it really like that? Tang Yun shook her head. In her heart, she didn't reject Lin Yi anymore. On the contrary, when she was with him, she felt an inexplicable excitement and throbbing. Was she really in love at such a young age? What are you doing here? Tang Yun lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at Lin Yi. I'm waiting for a friend. She needs my help. Lin Yi paused. So I came to see you on the way. Tang Yun was a bit disappointed when she heard the first half of Lin Yi's sentence. So he didn't come to see her. But when she heard the second half, it was as if she had eaten honey. It was a sweet feeling. Oh. Tang Yun blushed. She felt complicated. Did she fall for him just like that? Don't. Your family's business is pretty busy. If you can't do it, you should hire a helper. Lin Yi said as he looked at Mrs. Tang's barbecue stand. It was already surrounded by students. Yeah. Mom said that if we keep this busy, we'll hire someone, Tang Yun said. Tang Yun was grateful to Lin Yi. If it wasn't for him, her family's business wouldn't be this popular. But thinking about their relationship, was this a way to repay him? Tang Yun didn't dare think about it anymore. Her heart was getting more and more confused. I'll go help my mom first. With that, Tang Yun turned around and left, ignoring Lin Yi. Looking at Tang Yun's back, Lin Yi fell into a daze for a moment. This kind of life was great. But as soon as he closed his eyes, that pair of resentful eyes pierced into Lin Yi's heart again. Chapter 249. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lin Yi had been waiting for 10 minutes when Sun Jingyi arrived. I thought you weren't coming, so I was getting ready to go home. Lin Yi lazily opened the car door and got in. There was a traffic jam on the way, and it's rush hour. Sun Jingyi said apologetically, Little hubby, let's go get something to eat first. Who's your hubby? Lin Yi frowned. Is there something wrong with your brain? Don't call me that, did I agree to it? Why was this girl so clingy? It was fine if Ming Yao heard it. She'd just throw a tantrum. But if Tang Yun heard it, she'd think that something was wrong with him. The worst part was that he could do something with Sun Jingyi, since Lin Yi wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. The problem was that there was nothing going on between him and Sun Jingyi. Wouldn't it be unfair if he were to carry the title of Sun Jingyi's hubby? He'd have to help her solve the problem for free. I'm your lover now. Why aren't you going to admit it? Sun Jingyi giggled. You said it yourself. A gentleman keeps his word. Lin Yi shut his mouth. He was the one who'd said it, and so he'd kept his promise to help Jingyi deal with the problem. Although keeping his promise was one thing, it was normal for him to grumble a little. I'll admit it, but don't call me hubby from now on. It makes me nervous. Nothing good will come out of it. Lin Yi shrugged. Sure. I'll call you that when something good happens. Sun Jingyi said, taking advantage of the situation. Whatever. Lin Yi didn't want to say anything. To be honest, Sun Jingyi was really pretty. If it weren't so troublesome, Lin Yi would have been willing to flirt with her. But she was a pain in the ass. Let's skip the meal. Where are we going to steal the information? Let's get this over with. Going now might be a little troublesome. Jingyi looked at the time on the dashboard. According to the people I sent to keep an eye on them, Tongtian from the Tongtian Trading Company brought his mistress back to his place. They're probably in the middle of it right now, so it's not a good idea for you to make a move. I'd like to wait until they're asleep before you make your move. It's nothing, Lin Yi said indifferently. I'm stealing, not you. Hurry up, I have something to do tonight. All right. Since Lin Yi had said so, Sun Jingyi didn't say anything else. She drove to Zhang Tongtian's residence. It had to be said that the name Zhang Tongtian was very impressive. It was as if his hands and eyes were everywhere. Zhang Tongtian lived in a high-end villa district. Every house had its own independent villa. It could be seen that Zhang Tongtian's company was indeed very profitable. People who did business usually had some connections. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to do it. When Sun Jingyi drove into the community, the security guard let her go without much questioning. She was driving a red Audi A4L. Although it wasn't a particularly luxurious car, it was a favorite of many girls, and there were many of them in the community. She stopped near a 3-story villa. Sun Jingyi pointed to the villa and said, It's there. The video is saved in a silver DV. Look for it. It should be in his handbag. He is also very careful about this kind of thing. He won't let others keep it. Lenny nodded and got out of the car. Wait for me here. How do you get in? Sun Jingyi was about to ask Lin Yi how to get inside the wall of the villa. But she saw that Lin Yi had already climbed over the wall and entered the villa. Could it be that he was really a great thief? Sun Jingyi blinked. This man surprised her more and more. Not only was he good at martial arts, but he was also very agile. Why would such a person come to Songshan? Sun Jingyi was guessing how Lin Yi would enter the villa. She saw that Lin Yi had already climbed the wall of the villa like a spider and entered the villa from an open window on the second floor. Sun Jingyi couldn't believe it. He climbed in just like that. In fact, this was a piece of cake for Lin Yi. Heibao could jump directly to the second floor. So could Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi didn't want to expose too much of his strength in front of Sun Jingyi. So he chose to climb up. This way, people who were good at martial arts could do it. This was the living room on the second floor. The lights were on in the living room, but there was no one there. Not far from the left, there was a bedroom with a half-open door. There were sounds of a man and a woman having sex. Lin Yi didn't pay attention to them for now. He began to look for the DV camera that Sun Jingyi mentioned. However, Lin Yi didn't casually look through it. Instead, he looked around the living room. Maybe it was because Zhang Tongtian was in a hurry to hug his mistress after returning home. His clothes and handbag were all thrown on the sofa in the corner of the living room. Or maybe he didn't even think that someone would climb into the living room at this time. It was only 7 o'clock at night. It wasn't the time for thieves to appear. Lin Yi didn't have to rummage around much before pulling out a small silver DV from the bag on the sofa. It was an HD one too. Turning off the audio, Lin Yi turned on the DV. Sure enough, the picture showed a coffee shop. A man was handing a bank card to another man and saying something. The picture was very clear. It should be at a table not far away. But it didn't attract the attention of these two people. Presumably, these two people wouldn't have thought that their numerous transactions would be recorded. Lin Yi turned off the DV, pulled out the memory card, and stuffed it into his pocket. He was about to put the DV back in his handbag and leave when he suddenly found that there was a spare memory card in his handbag. Was there a backup? Lin Yi inserted the spare memory card into the DV, but found that he had overestimated Zhang Tongtian's IQ. This memory card was blank, and there was no information in it. It should have been given to him by the seller when he bought the DV. Zhang Tongtian didn't care about it and put it in his bag. However, now that he had a blank memory card, Lin Yi's wicked idea popped up again. Lin Yi took the DV to the door of Zhang Tongtian's room and filmed the room for a while. Lin Yi didn't dare to compliment Zhang Tongtian's figure, but his lover wasn't bad. It was just that Lin Yi wasn't interested in such a woman. After recording a video of Zhang Tongtian, Lin Yi put the DV into Zhang Tongtian's handbag and disappeared from the window on the second floor. Done? So fast. Sun Jingyi didn't expect Lin Yi to come out so quickly. She was a little surprised. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This wasn't challenging at all. It was already slow enough. If it weren't for the fact that he had nothing better to do, he would have come out a long time ago after filming Zhang Tongtian with his DV. Chapter 250. Plot. Sun Jingyi was speechless. You still have time to play with his camcorder? Aren't you afraid of being found out? Are you sure it's this memory card? Sun Jingyi asked worriedly. I'm sure. Lin Yi said lazily. It was recorded in a coffee shop. I've already checked it. Sun Jingyi relaxed after hearing Lin Yi's words. Thank you, little hubby. Big sis will give you a kiss as a reward. With that, Sun Jingyi made a pouting expression and feigned a kiss in the air. Smack! Sun Jingyi was taken aback. She clearly feigned a kiss in the air. So how did she end up kissing something? She didn't know when Lin Yi had moved his face closer. You! Sun Jingyi cursed at Lin Yi's shamelessness inwardly. She'd only feigned a kiss, and he'd taken the initiative to move closer. What about me? Lin Yi touched the spot on his face where Sun Jingyi had kissed him, a wicked smile on his face. Don't think that I'm harmless in the future. I'll respond appropriately if you try to flirt with me again. Lin Yi was getting a little pissed off by Sun Jingyi. You can't keep bringing up that half-lover thing again and again, can you? If you're so willing to talk about it, then fine. I'll fulfill your wish. It's half lover after all. There's no special boundary for that half. Even if we don't sleep together, a kiss should be fine, right? You. Sun Jingyi didn't know what to say. It was true that she'd only teased Lin Yi because he didn't look that old, and didn't think he was a match for her. If it were any other dangerous man, Sun Jingyi wouldn't have played these childish tricks. She'd only get herself into trouble. According to Jingyi's estimations, Lin Yi was a little boy who hadn't experienced the world of worldly affairs. He was a little strong, but he must have been under his master's closed-door training. He didn't know much about the outside world, and so Jingyi was confident that she could use her beauty to charm Lin Yi into working for her. But she hadn't expected Lin Yi to make the first move. Just when Sun Jingyi was about to say something, Lin Yi's next move caught her off guard. Lin Yi suddenly reached out and pinched Sun Jingyi's beautiful jaw. It was a frivolous and slightly insulting gesture. It was like something a bully would do to a girl in a drama. She'd never been treated in such a manner before. Sun Jingyi was a little nervous, even afraid. What do you want to do? Sun Jingyi was a little panicked. Nothing good would come out of this kind of action. Half-lover, I'll come and collect this revenge anytime. Lin Yi let go of his hand at this moment. Think carefully before you ask me to do something next time. I'll continue to collect payment. At that time, half-lover will become the whole lover. If Lin Yi didn't teach her a lesson, this girl would open a dye shop. Lin Yi didn't bother with her before, but this girl was a little too much. Lin Yi couldn't bear it anymore. He could put up with Ming Yao and Yushu at home, because it was his job. But Jingyi, a complete stranger. Did this girl really think that she was that attractive? Did she really think that she was invincible? Sun Jingyi felt wronged. She'd never been humiliated like this before. Even Wu Taizhou didn't dare to say some frivolous words. Although Zhang Tongtian coveted him, he wouldn't use force. For this kind of thing, coercion and temptation were one thing, but using force was another. No matter how powerful Zhang Tongtian was, he didn't want to be imprisoned. Zhang Tongtian didn't want to be imprisoned. However, this guy Lin Yi actually stole her first kiss. Although it wasn't on his mouth, it was still on his face. This made Sun Jingyi feel wronged. However, even if Sun Jingyi felt wronged, she could only bear it silently. She knew very well that all of this was caused by herself. This was the logic of playing with fire. Seeing that Sun Jingyi had finally settled down, Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with her anymore. It'd be best if she didn't come looking for him in the future. He was very busy, and every time she asked him to do some low-tech things, Lin Yi always felt that it was a little unfair to his martial arts. He'd accept it if Sun Jingyi really was his wife. The problem was that she wasn't, and she was still trying to play tricks on him. Lin Yi decided to help her this time out of respect for their acquaintance, but the next time would depend on her sincerity. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't let Sun Jingyi send him to the villa area. Instead, he sent him to a bus stop near the villa area. Sun Jingyi gritted her teeth, looked at Lin Yi angrily, and drove away. Dad, Pengzhan's been retracting his power these days. This isn't good for us. A young man with glasses said carefully in front of a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was Jin Gubang, Fabai's brother-in-law. He was the biggest shareholder of Pengzhan Industries after Pengzhan. This young man was his son and secretary Jin Maosheng. I know, Zhang Yuchu got me a bunch of trash. Otherwise, the company would have lost at least 200 million. Pengzhan was the one who signed the contract. And no matter what, his reputation in the board of directors is at rock bottom. Jin Gubang said a little hatefully. They don't even know how to kidnap a girl. I don't know if these people eat shit or not. They can't even handle a small bodyguard. Yeah, but that Lin Yi bastard's really despicable too. I'd bribed the electrician from the company to create an accident for Pengzhan in the parking lot, so he'd end up in the hospital for a while. But that Lin Yi ruined it all. Maosheng said hatefully. You're still talking about it? Who told you to act so recklessly? If something happens to Pengzhan in the company, the police's first suspect would be an insider. Gubang glared at his son. Do you have a brain? How could you do something so reckless? Dad, that electrician's gone forever. Maosheng explained carefully. I'm not saying you're wrong, but don't do it in the company next time. Gubang humphed coldly. By the way, did that cousin of yours get Ming Yao or not? I don't think so, Mao Xing said. Dad, I don't think Uncle has any good intentions. If Pinliang really is with Ming Yao, we'll be able to control Pengzhan Industries in a roundabout way. But wouldn't Uncle's family be taking advantage of that too? He's an outsider after all. There's no guarantee he won't betray us in the future. Chapter 251. Something happens to her. Looks like we need to hurry up. Give Zhang Yuzhou a call and tell him to do whatever it takes to cause some trouble. It'd be best if something happens to that Ming Yao girl, so that Pengzhan won't be able to focus on the company. Give me some time, and I'm confident that I'll be able to take control of the company and get the other shareholders to support me, Gubong said after some thought. He'd made up his mind this time. Pengzhan was starting to get suspicious and was starting to put his guard up against him. The company's power was shrinking as well, and it wouldn't be good for Gubong if this continued. All right, Dad. I'll contact Zhang Yuzhou right away and have him do something. Mao Xing nodded. Be careful of that Lin Yi. That kid's ruined our plans twice already, Gubong reminded. We need to think of a way to get the best of both worlds this time. Mao Xing was thinking of a way to make Meng Yao get into an accident. He was even more vicious than his father, and he liked using accidents to solve problems. Just like that time when the chandelier fell from the parking lot of Pengzhan Industries. He'd wanted to use accidents to get rid of Pengzhan. The electrician who'd done the job had been electrocuted after that. Mao Xing was a ruthless man, and as for kidnapping Meng Yao, he hadn't approved of it in the first place. As far as he was concerned, killing Meng Yao would throw Pengzhan into chaos, and he wouldn't be able to focus on managing the company at all. House Jean would be able to take over the chairman's position in one fell swoop. He walked out of his father's room and called Zhang Yuzhou's number. This Zhang Yuzhou was Zihua's underling, and Mao Xing wanted to talk to Zihua directly, but he knew that he didn't have the right to do so. House Jean wasn't enough to enter the eyes of the person behind Zihua. Everything he was doing now was just to pave the way for Master Bing's company to expand in Songshan after House Jean took control of Pengzhan Industries. Otherwise, that person wouldn't even care about their own power struggles. The price House Jean had to pay for taking control of the company was to give their real estate business to Master Bing, the bastard son of that person. Pengzhan Industries was involved in trade, real estate, department stores, hotels, entertainment, and clothing manufacturing. Although it would be a loss to cede the real estate business, it was nothing compared to becoming the real boss of Pengzhan Industries. He was the son of a shareholder of Pengzhan Industries, and yet he was nothing in that person's eyes. Mao Xing felt a wave of sadness wash over him. Was that house really that strong? Young Master Jean, what's the matter? Yuchu was quite pissed at the Jean father-son duo. Their last mission had failed entirely, because Gubong hadn't investigated the people around Meng Yao, resulting in such a huge loss. And now they were saying that their men weren't good enough. This pissed Yuchu off. He was Zihua Bro's man, after all, and he wasn't someone Gubong could scold as he pleased. Mao Xing was getting a little pissed off at Yuchu's voice. It wasn't like they weren't paying a price for it. They'd even given away the company's real estate business. That was a branch company worth 300 to 400 million. If he wanted to set up a new branch company, the price he had to pay was not small. How could the price of transferring the entire branch company be small? Mr. Zhang, I hope that you can understand that we are in a cooperative relationship, not a subordinate relationship. If this is done well, Master Bing will get what he wants, and so will I. Mao Xing wasn't a pushover after all. He was a lot tougher than his father, and he'd been the one who'd instigated this whole usurpation. But if it fails, I won't lose anything, but we'll keep it the way it is now. House Jean is still a shareholder of Pengzhan Industries, but will Master Bing let you go? Yuchu's heart skipped a beat. Why hadn't he thought of this before? He'd been a little annoyed at House Jean for blaming him for everything, but now that he thought about it, he was doing something for Master Bing. Would Master Bing mistreat him if he did well? But on the other hand, would Master Bing let him go if he didn't? Yuchu broke out in a cold sweat at the thought. Jean bro, look at what you're saying. We're brothers, We're doing this for the common good. Don't worry, I'll do my best. Maoshing smiled coldly inwardly. You're just dragging this out if I don't scare you. You're not even doing your best. He said with a smile. Yuchu bro, what are you talking about? That old fox Pengzhan's starting to get suspicious after what happened last time. And he's been shrinking the company's power. My father's in a very passive position. Then, what should we do now? Yuchu thought. I can't interfere with your company's business, so why are you telling me this? If something happens to Pengzhan's daughter, he probably won't be in the mood to manage the company anymore. Will he? Maoshing said faintly. Man, the sky's the limit. Isn't that right, Yuchu bro? Yuchu paused. Knowing that Maoshing was going to play hard. He was a desperado after all. How many of Zihua bro's underlings weren't? Don't worry, Jin bro. I know what to do. It won't be long before the bad news gets out. Yuchu said straightforwardly. Killing someone by accident was actually a lot easier than kidnapping. That's it then. I'll wait for the news. Maoshing said as he hung up. Yuchu wouldn't know what was going on if he didn't give him a heads up. Of course, Yuchu wasn't going to act rashly after agreeing to Maoshing's request. He had to ask Zihua first. Zihua bro, it's Lil Yuchu. Yuchu said as he dialed up Zihua's number. Lil Yuchu, why were you calling at this hour? Don't you know I'm sleeping? Zihua slept during the day and worked at night. This was something all his lackeys knew. He only turned his phone on during the day, because he didn't want his boss to come looking for him. Zihua bro, Jin Maoshing's calling. He wants me to kill that Mengyao girl. Yuchu said, relaying Maoshing's message to Zihua. Oh, I'll leave that to you. Don't get into a head-on confrontation. There's a master around that girl. Just cause an accident. Zihua said offhandedly. After all, a human life was nothing to him. Also, Master Bing's almost here. We need to hurry up. Pengzhan Industries real estate company is our gift to Master Bing. Yes, Zihua bro. I'll do it then. With Zihua's confirmation, Yuchu didn't have to worry about anything anymore. As far as Yuchu was concerned, that Lin Yi by Mingyao's side didn't matter how strong he was. As long as they didn't get into a head-on confrontation, Mingyao could be killed with some dirty tricks. Chapter 252. Falling down, Lin Yi went back to the villa to find Mingyao and Yushu sitting in the living room, not watching TV. It was the same as the day they taught him a lesson. Shield bro, Yao Yao's getting jealous. Be careful. Yushu was sitting on the sofa, eating an orange. She called out to him as he walked in. Shoo! Mingyao glared at Yushu. What are you talking about? What do you mean I'm jealous? Oh, Yao Yao's angry. Shield bro, good luck then. I'll stop talking. Yushu shut her mouth as if she hadn't said anything. Shu Yu. Mingyao had wanted to teach Lin Yi a lesson at first, but Yushu's interruption made her lose the mood. She glared at Yushu. Shu, did you fall in love with Lin Yi after confessing your feelings to him? Why else would you cover for him? Oh, Yao Yao, do you want me to fall in love with him? Yushu said nonchalantly as she ate a piece of orange. You and I are going to marry the same man anyway. Mingyao really wanted to stand up and kick Yushu into space. She was getting further and further away from the topic. She looked at Lin Yi's nonchalant face, and Mingyao's interest waned. He could do whatever he wanted. What did it have to do with her? He could flirt with girls or fool around. As long as he didn't interfere with her business, and Pin Liang didn't harass her, he'd done his job. Mingyao waved her hand, annoyed. Lin Yi, just pay attention to your image in school. I don't care what happens between you and Tang Yin. Just don't let Pin Liang harass me. Oh, don't worry about that. That guy can't even take care of himself. He won't harass you. Lin Yi nodded. Alright, it's fine. But you have to tell me before you go out next time. Otherwise, I won't be able to find you if I need you. Mingyao didn't know what was wrong with her. Did she care that Lin Yi was with another girl? Or did she care that he wasn't professional enough to be her follower? Okay. Lin Yi nodded without thinking. The relationship between Lin Yi and Mingyao was much more harmonious now, and Lin Yi cherished this mission. He didn't know what it was, but since this mission was enough to feed him for the rest of his life, and his old man allowed him to settle down in Songshan, no matter what, Lenny would do his best to complete this mission. I'll leave you to your work then. Shu and I are going to watch the concert. There's food in the kitchen, we've already eaten. You can eat if you want. Meng Yao waved at Lin Yi, signaling him to leave. Yao sis. Didn't you say you were angry and wanted to go bungee jumping this weekend? Why do you stop talking about pushing Shield Bro down the valley? Yushu interjected. Shu. Meng Yao was just saying it out of anger. There was no way she'd push Lin Yi down the valley. That'd be murder, wouldn't it? She glared at Yushu. What's in that head of yours? I was just saying it out of anger. How could you take it seriously? I want to go bungee jumping too. Maybe we won't push Shield Bro down the valley. We'll just go bungee jumping? Yushu looked at Meng Yao. Lin Yi shook his head. Yushu was a top-class clown after all. With her around, the war in this house would never happen. However, Lin Yi didn't expect Meng Yao to be so angry that she wanted to push him down the valley. Meng Yao was a little embarrassed by Yushu's words. She coughed. Lin Yi, don't listen to Shu. I didn't mean to push you. Oh, it's fine if you push me a little. Lin Yi thought to himself. The Mrs. Pushing wasn't bad either. What did you say? Meng Yao didn't hear it clearly. Nothing. Lin Yi didn't dare repeat himself. Yao, Shield Bro said that he wants you to push him down. Yushu heard it clearly, but her words were always powerful. Wah! Meng Yao blinked, blushing as she understood what Yushu meant by push him down. It wasn't like she didn't interact with the outside world. And even a young girl would know what that word meant. What did you say, Lin Yi? I only said it's fine if I push him a little. Lin Yi sweated. That was what he meant, but he didn't say it like that. With my skills, I won't die even if I push him down. Meng Yao frowned as she thought about what Lin Yi said. He did say something like it's fine, not push him down. She turned to Yushu. Shu. Oh. Yushu got up from the sofa, wanting to run away, but her legs were numb from standing cross-legged the whole time. She lost her balance and fell off the sofa. Shu. Lin Yi. Meng Yao was startled. She couldn't care less about scolding Yushu anymore. She wanted to pull her up, but she was too slow. Yushu fell to the ground. Meng Yao subconsciously wanted Lin Yi to save her. Oh! Lin Yi reached out and caught Yushu. Shu, don't say that word. There's a man here. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. If I don't let him go, am I supposed to let him keep touching you? But, Yushu said. She couldn't just throw her to the ground. But what? You got touched by that Lin Yi bastard. Why aren't you going after him? Why are you talking about me? Meng Yao looked at Yushu. Chapter 253. Could it be that the fake had become real? Oh, Yao, you're saying that you want him to take responsibility for me? Yushu blinked, confused. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Aren't you going to get your brother to beat him up? Oh, Shield Bro already touched me once when he pulled me out from the railing. Yushu said after some thought. Yao, maybe we should put this on the back burner for now. We won't bother him if he's obedient in the future? Yeah, that's a good idea. Meng Yao naturally agreed. It was Shu who was touched, not her. If Shu didn't mind, what did she have to mind? I saved you twice. Lin Yi wasn't too happy about it. He'd saved Yushu twice already. And this girl still wanted to bother him? Oh, forget it then. We'll call it even then. But Shield Bro, why don't you come bungee jumping with us this weekend? I haven't done it before. You can come with us. Yushu didn't mind at all. She had a handle on Lin Yi, so it didn't really matter anymore. No problem. Lin Yi wanted to reject her at first, but he'd touched Yushu anymore. He'd flirted with the Miss Best Friend right in front of her. He'd be lucky if Meng Yao didn't come after him. Bungee jumping was nothing to him. Meng Yao didn't know what Yushu was thinking. She waited until Lin Yi went to eat before whispering to her. Shu, do you really like Lin Yi now? No. Yushu mumbled as she chewed on her orange. No. You let him touch you? Meng Yao frowned as she sighed inwardly. Her best friend was most likely under Lin Yi's spell. Otherwise, why wouldn't she react to his touch? He didn't do it on purpose. Yushu found it strange as well. She didn't seem to dislike Shield Bro at all. She didn't want to beat him up to vent her anger after being touched. Instead, she was more interested in studying bungee jumping, as if being touched wasn't that important. You. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. This bestie of hers. Could it be that she'd fallen for Lin Yi after confessing to Lin Yi once? Did the two of them turn their act into reality? Just like before, Zhang Tongtian crossed his legs and dialed Sun Jingyi's number, as if victory was already in his grasp. Hello? Is it Miss Sun? From Zhang Tongtian's point of view, Sun Jingyi was the meat in his mouth. Unless Sun Jingyi didn't want to continue doing business in Songshan, her reputation would definitely be ruined this time. With Zhang Tongtian's connections in Songshan, he was familiar with many reporters. As long as this video was leaked, Sun Jingyi's company would be done for. Not only would they face punishment from the relevant departments, but most importantly, no one would do business with their company in the future. Who would want to do business with an unsafe company like this? Purchasing managers in those companies were all lucrative jobs. Everyone knew what was going on. They would get a commission if they did business with other companies. So why would they go to a company like Sun Jingyi? However, Zhang Tongtian didn't know about Sun Jingyi's background. In fact, Sun Jingyi came to Songshan alone not because she wanted to rely on her family's background, but because she wanted to leave House Sun. Sun Jingyi didn't want to think about the Sun's faces at all. They were a family, but they were fighting to the death for her grandpa's assets. Her grandpa wasn't even dead yet, and who knew what would happen when he passed away? Sun Jingyi's parents passed away early, and she grew up with her grandpa. Just because she was a little closer to her grandpa, the other sons saw her as the public enemy number one, trying to take away the family's property. It made Sun Jingyi very uncomfortable, and she had no choice but to leave the city and make her own way. Manager Zhang, what's the matter? Sun Jingyi got the memory card, so she naturally wouldn't be afraid of Zhang Tongtian anymore. She picked up the phone, and she wasn't as nervous as before. Miss Sun, have you forgotten? Today, I'm going to hold a small press conference to expose the inside story of some companies in the industry that don't follow the rules of business, disrupt the order of the industry, and cause unhealthy practices. Zhang Tongtian said. Miss Sun, would you be interested in attending? Tongtian smiled coldly inwardly. Jingyi, this is your last chance. You better know what's good for you, or I'll leak this video to the press conference and ruin your company's reputation. Tongtian thought. Oh, why wouldn't I go if Mr. Zhang invited me? Jingyi said faintly. What time and where? Lin Yi asked. At 9 o'clock this morning, in the conference room of my company. I think it's better for Miss Sun to come earlier and discuss the contents of the press conference with me. Zhang Tongtian hinted. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I have something to do here. I can't go in advance. It's good enough that I'm on time. Sun Jingyi was puzzled. Didn't Zhang Tongtian find that the memory card had been lost? Why did he still look like he had one? Did he have a backup? No, Sun Jingyi heard that Zhang Tongtian was a computer illiterate, so she dared to let Lin Yi take the risk to steal the memory card. Because Zhang Tongtian didn't know how to use a computer or a camera at all. This video was recorded by a private detective. After watching it, he had put it in his handbag. Sun Jingyi's guess was right. To be on the safe side, Zhang Tongtian took a look at the video recorder this morning. When he found that the memory card was still on it, he was relieved. He didn't know how to play with such a sophisticated thing, so he didn't open it to see what was going on. Zhang Tongtian was a vulgar person, and he was only good at interpersonal relationships. So although the company sold computers, he couldn't even find the power button of the computer. Well, I hope Miss Sun won't regret it. Zhang Tongtian snorted coldly and hung up the phone. He thought to himself, bitch, don't be so shameless. I'll make you cry later. At 9 o'clock, Sun Jingyi appeared in Zhang Tongtian's conference room late. Zhang Tongtian's face was very bad, and there was a trace of ruthlessness in his eyes. This woman could really keep her cool, but he didn't know if she would still be so calm after watching the video. Zhang Tongtian had made up his mind. Since Sun Jingyi didn't know how to appreciate his kindness, he could only let her taste the price of rejecting him. Miss Sun, you're very late. Zhang Tongtian nodded to Sun Jingyi indifferently. Mr. Zhang, What does it matter if I come early or late for your company's press conference? Sun Jingyi said lightly. Well, Miss Sun, please take a seat. Zhang Tongtian sneered and sat on the rostrum of the conference room. Chapter 254. Who will be ruined? Chapter 254. Who will be ruined? But since Sun Jingyi hadn't gone back on her words, Zhang Tongtian didn't mind ruining her reputation. Zhang Tongtian cleared his throat and said, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my small press conference. Everyone here is either a journalist friend or a friend of the same profession. Let's skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point. Director Zhang, we're all ready. A reporter who knew the news pointed the camera at the big screen in the conference room. All right, I'll say it then. Zhang Tongtian nodded. Today, I'm going to expose a scum in the industry. This person has ruined the morals of our industry and is leading the way in the wrong direction. What do you think we should do with someone like this? Get rid of the black sheep. How can someone like this be a traitor? One of the industry insiders stood up and said, Yes, Director Zhang, hurry up and expose it. We're all waiting. We want to see who this person is. How can someone who's worse than pigs and dogs be a traitor? Another person stood up and raised his arms. Actually, there were only a few people who spoke. They'd all gotten a hint from Zhang Tongtian. Most of them were just here to watch the show and wouldn't get involved. All right, Secretary Li, go and play this video. Zhang Tongtian handed the video recorder to his secretary. This was the first time he'd given the camera to his secretary. Before this, he wouldn't let anyone touch it. Firstly, Zhang Tongtian was afraid that the video would be leaked out too early. If that happened, it would lose its effect as a threat to Sun Jingyi. If it was leaked out, Sun Jingyi wouldn't agree to his request. Secondly, he didn't trust the people around him. He was afraid that Sun Jingyi would bribe the people around her to delete the video. If that happened, he'd have hired a private detective to record the video for nothing. That was why Zhang Tongtian took out the camera now. Everyone, please watch the video. Zhang Tongtian waited for Secretary Li to connect the camera to the big TV in the conference room, then gestured for everyone to watch. Suddenly, the sound of a man and a woman moaning came from the TV. Many TVs played the sound first before the image, and the image was always a second later than the sound. Therefore, everyone was very curious. What kind of video was this? Zhang Tongtian was also very puzzled. When he watched this video, there didn't seem to be such a sound. While everyone was wondering, two naked figures appeared on the TV screen. The man was fat, and the woman was voluptuous. However, why did the man look so familiar? Everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Tongtian, because the male lead of the video was Zhang Tongtian himself. Sun Jingyi secretly spat and lowered her head. She was a little afraid to look at the picture on the TV, but she was very happy in her heart. The date of the video on the TV was last night, just when Lin Yi went to steal the memory card. Lin Yi said that he played with the camera for a while, so this must have been recorded by Lin Yi. Although she was a little annoyed with Lin Yi's sudden overbearingness yesterday, Sun Jingyi was undoubtedly very refreshed today. He fiercely vented the resentment in his chest. Zhang Tongtian had lost a lot of face today. He was stunned for a while like everyone else, and then his face turned red. Secretary Li? What is this? What a mess. What did you put there? Mr. Zhang, this is the camera you gave me. I connected it directly to the TV. Secretary Li looked innocent. Haha. There was a burst of snickering in the conference room. Those reporters who had a relationship with Zhang Tongtian were confused, but those who had no relationship with him were excited. This was a big tidbit of news. Turn it off. Turn it off. Zhang Tongtian shouted at Secretary Li angrily. Although Secretary Li felt wronged, he had to quickly turn off the camera and TV. What's going on? What's going on? How did it become like this? Zhang Tongtian's face was gloomy and unhappy. Mr. Zhang, is this your so-called black sheep? Sun Jingyi sneered and stood up. You asked us to come here just to watch you perform? With all due respect, I'm sorry, but I have no interest in your indecent video. Goodbye. After that, Sun Jingyi turned around and walked out of the conference room. There was no need to stay here any longer. As for the other people in the same industry, they were too embarrassed to stay any longer. They didn't know what Zhang Tongtian was up to. He had invited everyone here to watch an indecent video of this fat pig. He really had nothing better to do. Was this guy an exhibitionist? Was it to show off his manly charm? Zhang Tongtian looked at the press conference with a gloomy face. He was very unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. He didn't understand why the video of Sun Jingyi's staff bribing became an indecent video of himself and his lover. It must be Sun Jingyi. It must be this woman. Although he didn't know what methods Sun Jingyi used, his intuition told him that Sun Jingyi definitely had something to do with this. Otherwise, why would Sun Jingyi be so calm? And why did she look like she didn't care? Sun Jingyi, Zhang Tongtian, will never let you go. Zhang Tongtian clenched his fists tightly. Songshan's first high, grade 12 class 5. Linny yawned lazily. In fact, Linny didn't sleep well last night. It was the first time he touched a girl's chest, and it was always unforgettable. He thought that the unforgettable girl would be Tang Yun, but he didn't think that it would be Yushu. Although it was an emergency, and he accidentally touched it, it still made Lin Yi's heart throb. To be honest, if Yushu wasn't Mingyao's best friend, Lin Yi might have made a move on her. But the problem was it that easy to make a move on the Mrs. Best Friend? Boss, what's wrong? Why do you look so tired? Kong Xiaobo wanted to talk to Lin Yi about Xiaofan, but seeing Lin Yi's listless face, he didn't know if he should say it or not. Xiaobo, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm fine. Lin Yi shook his head. In fact, if Lin Yi wanted to get rid of his fatigue, he only needed to circulate the art of dragon mastery in his body. It was just that Lin Yi wasn't just tired, he wasn't in the mood. Chapter 255. Request for backup, boss. I think that bastard Kong Xiaoming is still in Fun's heart. Xiaobo's fists were clenched tightly as he spoke, his face filled with anger. What do you mean? Lin Yi was startled. Kong Mingming was already so heartless, and yet Xiaofan was still so loyal to him? Are you kidding me? Sigh, boss, you don't know, but Xiaofan's expression changed when I mentioned Kong Mingming to her. Kong Xiaobo sighed. I think she wants to forget Kong Mingming, but she can't. He's her first man after all, so it's normal for her to remember him. But why doesn't Xiaofan know about Kong Mingming's disgusting face? She knows, Lin Yi said. But as you said, she can't forget that man easily. I think if you let her see Kong Mingming again, she'll be able to let it go. It's best to let her see how heartless Kong Mingming is right now. Boss, won't this agitate Xiaofan? Has her illness just recovered? Kong Xiaobo was worried. Maybe not. But she'll be fine with me by her side. Lin Yi said. If she doesn't face this matter, she'll never be able to walk out of it. You're right. Kong Xiaobo nodded. Boss, I don't have to worry about Xiaofan acting up with you by my side. But where can I meet Kong Mingming? My second grandpa's family has moved to the provincial capital. There'll be a chance, right? Lin Yi said faintly. Xiaobo, you should be more confident now. Don't always treat yourself as a substitute for Kong Mingming. Maybe Xiaofan will slowly accept you this way. If you keep thinking about how you look like your cousin, and use it as a method to chase after Xiaofan, then it'll be a little sad. Boss, don't worry. I won't embarrass you. I will definitely deal with Xiaofan. Kong Mingming vowed. You've already decided? You want to be with Xiaofan? Lin Yi asked. It's decided. Boss, I've made up my mind. Xiaobo nodded solemnly. I stayed with Fun at the hospital last night. Ah, it can't be. Lin Yi's eyes went wide. He didn't expect his follower to be even fiercer than he was. All he did was hold Tang Yun's hand and pinch Yushu's boobs. But Kong Xiaobo was already sleeping with them. Sweat, boss, you misunderstood. I'm just accompanying you. Kong Xiaobo was sweating profusely. Nothing happened between us. Lin Yi was speechless. And then, I talked to Xiaofan a lot, and I know what she's thinking. Kong Xiaobo said. Boss, you're right. Xiaofan just won't give up. She knows that it's impossible, but Kong Mingming didn't say it to her personally. She still won't give up. Speaking of which, This incident might cause your relationship with your cousin to break up. Are you sure it's okay? Linny asked. Kong Ming Ming did such an inhumane thing. And I still recognize him as my brother? Kong Xiaobo laughed coldly. If it wasn't for second grandpa, I'd go and beat him up right now. You can beat him up but not now. You don't have that strength yet. Linny attacked Kong Xiaobo. I know. Kong Xiaobo sighed. He's the second young master of House Kong. What am I? A poor relative of Dr. Kong? Zhang Naipeo didn't come to school today. Other than Pinliang, no one knew where he went. Even Pinliang's subordinate Gao Xiaofu didn't know. He only told the school that he was on sick leave, and told his family that he was going to do something big for Pinliang. After that, he was escorted to Springstar Mountain by Fabai's men. Pinliang glared at Lin Yi. You don't need to show off in front of me. When Zhang Naipeo comes back from his studies, I'll see how you die. At that thought, Pinliang felt a little better. Lin Yi was going to die sooner or later anyway. He'd let him have his fun for a couple of days. He'd let him be happy for a couple of days before he died. And so, Pinliang looked at Lin Yi with pity. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi was a dead man. Mengyao, are you free on Saturday? My dad gave me 3 3D movie tickets. Let's go watch it together? Pinliang had been urged by his father this morning to hook up with Mengyao as soon as possible. Otherwise his uncle Gubang might come up with some plan that he didn't need to cooperate with anymore. House Zhong wouldn't get anything out of it then. And so Pinliang started to get close to Mengyao. I told you not to call me Mengyao. Do you have ears? Mengyao was disgusted by Pinliang calling her so intimately. Pinliang didn't seem to care at all. He moved his stool over and sat beside Mengyao. Heh, then I'll call you Yao Yao. Why don't you go die? Mengyao frowned. Do you have something to do? Yeah, let's go watch a movie together on Saturday. It's the 3D version of Fallen Angel. It's an international blockbuster. Pinliang said as he pulled out 3 movie tickets. I'm not free. I have something else on Saturday. Mengyao rejected immediately. She'd promised Shu to go bungee jumping. So naturally she wouldn't go watch a movie. Even if she didn't go bungee jumping, she wouldn't go watch a movie with Pinliang. The guy was even more annoying than Lin Yi. Mengyao paused at the thought. Didn't she think that Lin Yi was more annoying than Pinliang? Did she change the order already? Mengyao shook her head. She didn't know what was going on. Then we can go on Sunday, Pinliang said, not getting tired of it. Mengyao couldn't take it anymore. She nudged Yushu, signaling her to go to Lin Yi. Yushu smiled and sent a message to Lin Yi. Yao Yao sis is in trouble. I need help. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Yushu's message, but he stood up anyway. He'd promised Mengyao yesterday that he'd help her if Pinliang bothered her. Boss, where are you going? Kong Xiaobo was confused when he saw Lin Yi standing up. I'm going to the washroom. You coming? Lin Yi asked. Yeah, wait for me. Kong Xiaobo stood up with Lin Yi, but he couldn't help but smile when he saw Pinliang blocking the way. Pinliang was in trouble again. Chapter 256. Should you change your seat? Do you have a bad memory? I told you not to gamble. Are you deaf? Lin Yi said coldly from behind Pinliang. Truth be told, if it weren't for Lin Yi's desire to live a peaceful life in Songshan, Pinliang would have become a pile of ashes a long time ago. Pinliang was about to turn around when he heard the voice when he felt his body lighten. He was sent flying with a whoosh, landing on the podium with a loud thud. He let out a cry of pain. You change your seat. It's not suitable for you to sit here. I'll send you flying out of the classroom window next time. Lin Yi warned faintly as he kicked Pinliang's chair away. This kid should know his place and stay away from Mengyao. He didn't need to be called over by Yushu to help him out every time. Pinliang glared at Lin Yi, but didn't dare say anything. He knew that whatever he said now would only put him at a disadvantage, and Lin Yi would keep beating him up. He wasn't a match for Lin Yi right now, and the only thing he could do was endure. Pinliang didn't say anything, and Lin Yi walked past him with a warning. Remember what I said. If you keep sitting in front of me, I'll make sure you're a trapeze artist every day. Pinliang clenched his teeth. When had he ever been threatened like this before? But this Lin Yi was someone he couldn't beat, and even Heibao Bro, who he was so proud of, wasn't a match for him. How could he piss off someone like this? Pin Liang didn't want to change his seat, but Lin Yi had said it. Pin Liang believed that Lin Yi would definitely throw him out if he didn't change his seat. Lin Yi was a madman, arrogant to the point that he didn't care about anything. News of Zhou Ruoming getting slapped in the face by Lin Yi in front of the dean had spread like wildfire. Pin Liang knew that he wasn't a match for a madman like that. It seemed like he'd have to get away from Ming Yao. He'd have to move to a corner if he wanted to get out of that bastard's line of sight. He'd just have to get rid of Lin Yi and switch back. Other than Lin Yi, there was no one else in this class who dared to go against her wishes. Changing seats was just a matter of saying the word. Boss, I'm starting to doubt your background now. Did you really come from the mountains? Kong Xiaobo asked, looking at Lin Yi curiously. One of my elders, a board member of the school board, Lin Yi said, giving a simple explanation of his background. Oh, no wonder. No wonder even the Dean of Academic Affairs couldn't do anything to you. So that's why, Kong Xiaobo said, understanding dawning on him. That luxurious car that sent you to school that morning belonged to that board member? Yeah. Lin Yi nodded. Amazing, Kong Xiaobo said excitedly. I didn't know you had such a powerful background. I thought you were just a poor student like me. Ha. Lin Yi smiled, not bothering to explain. In fact, a powerful background didn't have much of an effect. Wasn't Pin Liang's background powerful? Why didn't he dare act arrogant in front of the dean? At the end of the day, wasn't it because he had Wang Jifeng's weakness? Wang Jifeng couldn't do anything to him. Right, boss? Don't you need to go to the washroom? Kong Xiaobo asked curiously, seeing that Lin Yi didn't go to the washroom. I just don't like Pin Liang, and I wanted to teach him a lesson. Lin Yi didn't hide it. He didn't need to go to the washroom at all. Kong Xiaobo would see through him if he went to the washroom, so he just told him the truth. So that's how it is. Ha, Zhong Pingliang, that arrogant bastard, it's his bad luck to meet the boss. Xiaobo let out a long breath of vengeance, as if he was the one who'd taught Pin Liang a lesson. Didn't you want to go to the washroom? Lin Yi asked. I saw you coming out, so I wanted to follow you. Fun's matter is bothering me. Kong Xiaobo said. Let's go then. Lin Yi nodded, and walked with Kong Xiaobo in the hallway. There weren't many people in the hallway of the 12th grade. Other than the students on duty, everyone else was studying in the classroom. Those whose families had connections or couldn't get into college were playing basketball on the field or playing games outside of school. They wouldn't wander around in the hallway. They walked to the door of Class 5 and saw Tang Yun coming out with a bucket of water. She was probably going to the washroom to change the water. Kong Xiaobo quickly ran over. Sis, let me do it. Ah! Tang Yun jumped at Kong Xiaobo and almost dropped the bucket. What did you call me? Sis, Kong Xiaobo said matter-of-factly. Yesterday, boss declared his sovereignty over you in front of so many people. Sis, you didn't deny it either. Don't call me that. Tang Yun blushed and handed the bucket to Kong Xiaobo. Go get some water. Oh, hehe, okay. Xiaobo said as he took the bucket and ran to the washroom. Don't mind him. He's just like that. Lin Yi put his hands on the wall and surrounded Tang Yun. I know. Tang Yun was a little shy. Don't be like this, we're in school. Lin Yi's action was unintentional. He realized how intimate his action was after hearing Tang Yun's words. It was as if he was going to kiss Tang Yun. He quickly retracted his hand awkwardly. What if we're not in school? Yeah, I'm ignoring you. Tang Yun naturally didn't want to talk about this topic with Lin Yi. Lin Yi's situation had been messing with her mind for the past 2 days, especially last night. She hadn't been able to sleep at all. The image of Lin Yi holding her hand and slapping Zhou Ruoming's face kept flashing in her mind. Did this mean that she liked him? Tang Yun didn't know, but she couldn't stop herself from thinking about it. Ha! Lin Yi smiled and stopped teasing her. Tang Yun was different from Sun Jingyi in Lin Yi's heart. Sun Jingyi was a cunning fox. Lin Yi wouldn't spoil her. However, he only cared about Tang Yun. Ah, look at Xiaobo. Something happened. Tang Yun was panicking. She looked around, afraid that people would see her and Lin Yi together. Kong Xiaobo was in trouble. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.